Chapter 33-25. Yesterday's chapter has been revised. Everyone can go back and read it again. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow path. Back then, Lin was afraid of him, Patriarch Xinshin. But now, since Lin had already killed a few of Patriarch Xuanzhen's people and made little 11th miserable, how could Lin let little 7 go back in one piece? Who? Xiaoqi was shocked. He didn't expect someone to be so arrogant. He was the high and mighty emissary of the Five Elements sect, the disciple of Patriarch Xinshin, so he was furious at that moment. What a yawning toad! What arrogance! Xiaoqi heard Lin Yi's voice, and so did Bingtang and Xiaoxiao. Their faces changed slightly. Bingtang was a little annoyed that Lin was calling her Lil, 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 Lil. If Lin stood up for them, wouldn't that just draw the hatred onto the Ice Palace? Rock Candy didn't think that Lin had the ability to face the Five Elements sect alone. Xiaoxiao, on the other hand, was different. She was overjoyed to see Lin, even forgetting that the Ice Palace was in trouble. It had been a long time since she'd seen Lin, and she missed him a lot. She rushed into Lin Yi's arms and hugged him tight. Lin, honey, you came to see me. You're Lin? Little Six's face changed upon hearing this. However, it wasn't because he was afraid of Lin. He didn't know that Little 3, Little 4, and Little 5 had died at Lin Yi's hands. After all, Xiao San, Xiao Si, and Xiao Wu were secretly carrying out Ancestor Xuanzhen's orders to pretend to be robbers. Such a thing was very disgraceful. Even within the Five Elements sect, Ancestor Xinshin could not speak of it, in case it reached the ears of Ancestor Xianzhan or Boss Bai. Plus, when the 3 returned, 1 was dead and 2 were injured. Ancestor Xinshin wouldn't speak of such a shameful thing, and it would weaken his morale. Therefore, Xiaoqi didn't know the specifics of this matter. He only knew that 3 of his senior brothers were killed or crippled during a mission, but he didn't know who killed them. Although this matter was shocking, Xiaoqi also knew the rules. He shouldn't ask about things he shouldn't ask. Of course, if time was longer, Xiaoqi would still be able to hear some clues from other people's mouths. After all, this matter could not be hidden for a long time. However, time was short, and he was directly assigned a mission by old Ancestor Xinshin. Therefore, Xiaoqi didn't know about Lin Yi's heroic deeds at all. His memory was still at the Woolen Hate Mountain Range, when Lin killed Old 12 and injured Tagan Dragon. So it's you, Lin kid. What an arrogant tone. I let you escape back in Wulongheot Mountains. This time, I'll kill you first to avenge my 12th brother and Tagan Long. Xiaoqi smiled coldly. He didn't expect that there would be an unexpected harvest this time. If the culprit of the Wulongheot Mountains, Lin could be killed, then his contribution would be great. Xiaoqi also knew that his position was not very outstanding among the disciples of the Five Elements sect. There were 6 senior brothers above him, but it was different now. Other than Xiao and Xiao there was only him. If he made a contribution this time, then the Xinshin ancestor would definitely think highly of him, right? Thinking of this, Xiaoqi was determined to kill Lin here and now. Is that so? Then let's see who dies first. A smile flashed across the corner of Lin Yi's mouth. As soon as he finished speaking, he put Xiaoxiao to the side and activated the mantra. The 11th move of the Frenzy 8 trigram palm was used, and it hit Xiaoqi's chest. Xiaoqi raised his vigilance towards Lin Yi's palm, but he didn't care too much. After all, when Lin activated the mantra, he could see that Lin was a Sky-class mid-stage master. Although he was a little surprised that Lin Yi's strength increased so quickly, Xiaoqi didn't care more about it. After all, although Lin Yi's strength increased, it was not enough to enter Xiaoqi's eyes. He was a master at the peak of the late stage of Sky-class. So, Xiaoqi calmly activated the mantra and prepared to protect his body with qi, but he didn't dodge. Instead, he prepared to give Lin a critical blow after Lin hit him, and fight head-on with Lin. Boom! The 11th form of the Frenzied Fire 8 trigrams palm hit Xiaoqi's chest. Xiaoqi's expression changed from disdain to shock in less than a second. In the next moment, Xiaoqi's body was sent flying and smashed into the walls of the Ice Palace. There was a deafening sound as he smashed a large hole in the crystal pillars of the ice palace. Xiao-Qi was shocked, but Crystal Candy and Xiao-Xiao were even more shocked. A complicated look flashed in Crystal Candy's eyes. Lin Yi could really kill a sky-class late-stage peak? How was this possible? Lin Yi's strength was only at the mid-phase of sky class. How was it possible for him to use such a powerful move? Crystal Candy couldn't believe her own eyes. Xiao-Xiao, on the other hand, was shocked, but she was even happier. Lin Yi was even stronger than before, able to injure a sky-class late-stage peak. Who in the world of practitioners would dare look down on Lin Yi now? Impossible. Xiao-Qi clutched his chest. He was not dead yet. This was because he had used his true qi to protect his body. However, even if he had used his true qi to protect his body, the 11th move of the Raging Flame 8 Trigram Palm, coupled with the profound qi necklace, was not something he could resist. Back in the Dark Palace, 1 dead and 2 crippled, they were your fellow disciples, right? I say, Xiao-Qi, why don't you people from the 5 Elements sect learn from your mistakes? Do you think it's fun to get killed by me? Lin Yi looked at 7 and said faintly, What? 3rd senior brother, 4th senior brother, 5th senior brother, did you do it? 7's eyes went wide as he stared at Lin Yi in disbelief. His words, however, revealed the identity of Little 3, Little 4, and Little 5. Lin Yi saw that Xiao-Qi's dressing was similar to the 3 robbers from the Dark Palace, and so he said it casually. He didn't expect that those 3 were Xiao-Qi's senior brothers. Haha, this elder Xinshin lost 3 disciples at once. He'd have something to cry about. Oh no, it was 4. Even if Xiao-Qi didn't die, he'd be crippled, and so Lin Yi didn't kill him. He thought about it, and decided to let him live. Xiao-Qi, do you know why I held back and didn't kill you? Chapter 33:26. But thinking about it, it was true. 3rd brother was killed, so if Lin Yi wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. He really was being merciful. Go back and tell Xinshin that he better not get involved in my business. Lin Yi warned coldly, the Ice Palace people are people I want to protect, but if he wants all his disciples to die, that's fine too. He's welcome to come again. Yes. Did Little 9 dare to say no now? He could only nod. Scram. Lin Yi waved his hand, telling Little 9 to leave. I'll scram now. Thank you for not killing me, Master Lin. Little 9 was very dejected. He came valiantly and left with his tail between his legs, and he even got a heavy injury that couldn't be healed. He'd probably end up like 4 and 5 when he got back. Throughout the whole process, Bingtang didn't say a word. She didn't know what she wanted to say or what she could say. Lin Yi's strength had truly surpassed Sky-class late-phase peak. Otherwise, how could he kill a Sky-class late-phase peak? Moreover, what happened in the Dark Night Palace was actually true. With Little 9 in front of her, and with him admitting it himself, Bingtang didn't believe it before, but she had to believe it now. Lin Yi. Bingtang wanted to thank Lin Yi, but she couldn't say the word. Bingtang, little wife, we meet again. Lin Yi smiled. Who's your little wife? Bingtang's face reddened, but she suddenly realized that she didn't hate Lin Yi that much anymore. Was it because Lin Yi helped solve the problem? Or did she really worship the strong? Were those words she said in a fit of pique really her criteria for choosing a partner? Haha. Lin Yi smiled and didn't tease Bingtang anymore. He and Xiao-Xiao had been apart for so long, so naturally, his mind was on her. Lin Yi held Xiao-Xiao's hand. Xiao-Xiao, how have you been this half a year? Are you all right? Not bad. Senior sister Bingtang is very good to me, and I'm doing well in the Ice Palace. But I really miss Lin Yi hubby and Tang. Yao Yao, little sister Shu. Xiao-Xiao almost let it slip. She wasn't as experienced as Meng Yao and Yushu, and this was the first time she saw Lin Yi after Tang Yan left. She almost slipped up. Luckily, Lin Yi didn't mind as Xiao-Xiao changed the topic to Bingtang. Lin Yi, honey, when are you going to marry her? She'll be your little sister then. Ahem. Xiao-Xiao, what nonsense are you talking about? Crystal Candy jumped in fright. She thought that Xiao-Xiao and Lin Yi were intimate, and she dodged the question for now, but it seemed like that wasn't the case at all. Xiao Xiao remembered it even more clearly than Lin Yi. What puzzled Crystal Candy was that Xiao Xiao wasn't jealous at all. Although everyone was at the ancient level and retained the ancient customs, there was also the concept of jealousy in ancient times, right? There were plenty of fights in the harem, after all. Haha, Crystal Candy, you didn't forget your promise, did you? Didn't you say it was nonsense back then? Lin Yi looked at Crystal Candy with a smile that wasn't a smile on his face. He felt as if he was a serf singing a song. How proud was Crystal Candy the last time she came to the Ice Palace? But now, the two were on equal footing, and Lin Yi was even stronger than her. Crystal Candy was speechless. Bingtang didn't know what to say. Yes, she admitted it herself, and she couldn't go back on her words now. She was the master of the Ice Palace, and she couldn't say it out loud. However, she wasn't willing to marry Lin Yi just like that. After all, those were just words she said out of anger, and there was no emotional foundation. She used to look at Lin Yi with a high and mighty attitude, because Lin Yi was a weakling in her eyes. But now, he had become the savior of the Ice Palace, and he was even more powerful than Bingtang. How could she accept this in such a short time? But, without realizing it, her feelings towards Lin Yi had changed completely. She no longer looked down on Lin Yi, and instead, she was a little afraid. If it was before, she could just find a random reason to avoid Lin Yi's questioning, but now, she didn't dare say anything. Fortunately, Lin Yi didn't mean to make things difficult for her. He got down to business. Bingtang, let's talk about business first. I'll try my best to refine your Ice Heart Jade Bone Pellet for you, but I also agreed to let Xiao Xiao accept the inheritance. Lin Yi's words made Xiao Xiao pause. She didn't understand why Lin Yi would suddenly agree to let her accept the inheritance. After all, Lin Yi's attitude was very firm, and now that Lin Yi had the power to talk to Crystal Candy, he had the power to change things. He compromised. Why was he doing this? Of course, Xiao Xiao hadn't contacted Ming Yao and Yu Shu in this period of time, so she didn't know what was going on at home. Crystal Candy was confused as well. She didn't understand why Lin Yi would agree to Xiao Xiao's request, even if he was going to make her an ice heart pill. Crystal Candy didn't understand. Crystal Candy, I'm going to say a few words to Xiao Xiao. I hope you won't spread it. Lin Yi looked at Crystal Candy and reminded her. With Crystal Candy's strength, even if Lin Yi went to the side and spoke, she wouldn't be able to hide anything. Who cares? You think I'm that gossipy? Crystal Candy pouted. Lin Yi turned to Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao, before, I was actually very against the idea of being an inheritor, because the danger you'll face is unknown, but now, actually, the people around me have all become inheritors, and I have to change my mind. I have the power to protect you guys. So, you guys are all inheritors, and you're also my girlfriends. Facing danger together, helping each other isn't a bad thing. Xiao Xiao was startled. She thought that Lin Yi already knew about Tang Yun. After all, the person beside Lin Yi was an inheritor and Lin Yi's girlfriend. Who else could it be other than Tang Yun? Of course, she didn't know that Ming Yao had already left for the Dark Palace. Chapter 33:27. Crystal Candy himphed, a little pissed off. She knew what kind of person the Grand Elder of Dark Palace was. With Lin Yi's strength, it'd be weird if the Grand Elder didn't try to get on his good side. It's fine. Isn't Senior's sister your little wife? Plus, I don't like dealing with palace stuff. Xiao Xiao didn't mind. But, Yao Yao sis is an heir too? That's amazing. But didn't Linny Honey say she's his girlfriend? Don't tell me you and Yao Yao already. Yes, Yao Yao's my girlfriend now. What's even more amazing is that Shu's the fire heir of Flaming Mountain. She hasn't left yet, but she's not far from it, Linny said. Shu too? Xiao Xiao was completely shocked. She didn't expect Lin Yi to have so many inheritors around him. All of them were connected to Lin Yi. Crystal Candy, on the other hand, was extremely shocked as well. She knew about Ming Yao, but she didn't know about Yu Shu. She couldn't imagine that Xiao Xiao, Tang Yun, Ming Yao, and Yu Shu were all women who had a close relationship with Lin Yi. And now that they were all inheritors, Lin Yi would be in charge of Sky Class Island. Who asked them to be Lin Yi's people? Yeah, so don't worry and accept the inheritance. Your training speed should be faster. Linny said. Xiao Xiao was the first to accept the inheritance, but her training speed wasn't that fast. She'd been in the Ice Palace for half a year, and she was only Sky Class early phase, and that was with all the resources in the Ice Palace. How long had Mingyao been in the Dark Palace? Evidently, accepting the inheritance was different from not accepting it. Okay, I understand. Xiao Xiao nodded and let out a sigh of relief. This was something she had been struggling with for a long time. She knew that there was no such thing as love without a reason. In the Ice Palace, he not only saved her life, he even promised to save her mother, and even gave her all the resources. What was all this for? Wasn't it all to make her an inheritor? But without Lin Yi's approval, Xiao Xiao didn't dare say yes. Now that Lin Yi had confirmed this, she'd be a lot more loyal in the Ice Palace. This is the first thing I came here for, Lin Yi said as he pointed at the person on his back. Only then did Xiao Xiao remember that Lin Yi was carrying someone on his back. Xiao Xiao didn't know who it was, but Lin Yi was carrying him here, so something must have happened. You carried Xiao Xiao on your back last time. Don't tell me you need our help this time too? Crystal Candy frowned as she looked at Xinyan on Lin Yi's back. I want to see Aunt Qing alone. Crystal Candy, make the arrangements. Lin Yi didn't explain much, because Dongfang had told him to keep a low profile, and only say that Dongfang's identity was with Aunt Qing. Don't let too many people know. All right. Crystal Candy was a little helpless at Lin Yi's tone. It was like she was his little girl, asking her to make the arrangements. Don't you know that I'm the sect master of the Ice Palace? You want to see Aunt Qing, and you're not begging me, but asking me to make the arrangements? Of course, it was like that to other people, but to Lin Yi now, Crystal Candy didn't have any temper at all. It was like what Lin Yi said all those years ago. A hero shouldn't be afraid of a weak background. You could look down on Lin Yi back then, but you couldn't look down on the current Lin Yi. The winner was the king, and the loser was the thief. If Lin Yi didn't have the strength, he would have been kicked out already. Xiao Xiao paused. She didn't know why Lin Yi wanted to see Aunt Qing alone. Could it be that only Aunt Qing could save the person on Lin Yi's back? She didn't understand, but she knew that Lin Yi wouldn't hide things from her. Maybe it was to avoid Crystal Candy, so she didn't ask. After receiving the message from her disciple, Aunt Qing quickly rushed over. When she heard from her disciple that Lin Yi had crippled an emissary of the Five Elements sect who was at the peak of the late phase of Heaven stage and fled, she was a little surprised. It seemed that the previous rumors were true. Lin Yi really had such strength. But Aunt Qing was different from Crystal Candy. She was happy. She thought highly of Lin Yi and felt that Lin Yi was a person with backbone. Now, Lin Yi succeeded, which meant that her judgment was right. Lin Yi, you're looking for me? After Aunt Qing arrived, she saw Lin Yi. Lin Yi was still the Lin Yi from before. From the appearance, there was no difference. Who would have thought that in half a year, there would be such a huge change? Yes, Aunt Qing. Let's find a place to talk alone. Lin Yi nodded. With Lin Yi's words, Crystal Candy couldn't say anything. After Lin Yi and Aunt Qing entered a separate living room, Crystal Candy and Xiao Xiao were together. Naturally, it wouldn't be good for them to eavesdrop. The two went to study the inheritance. Since Xiao Xiao had already agreed, this matter had to be done as soon as possible. Lily, I really didn't expect that in just half a year, you would have such strength now. I'm really happy for you. Aunt Qing said sincerely, and then her face turned serious. She said seriously, why did you come to see me this time? Aunt Qing, forgive me for being direct. Do you have a sister? Did she leave with Crystal Candy's master? Lin Yi asked slowly. Oh, how did you know? Aunt Qing was very surprised when she heard Lin Yi's question. This matter was only known by a few people in the Ice Palace. No one else knew, so she was very curious. How did Lin Yi hear about it? Even Xiao Xiao didn't know, so it was even more impossible for Lin Yi to know. I have a senior. He told me, and he was the one who told me to come find you. Lin Yi said. Senior? Aunt Qing was a little puzzled. Lin Yi had a senior? Lin Yi's senior knew him? Wasn't Lin Yi a normal solo practitioner? Why was his senior also from the practitioner world? Yes, it's my grandpa. Lin Yi nodded. Your grandpa? Who is he? Aunt Qing was even more curious. His name is Lin Dongfang. Do you know him, Aunt Qing? Although Lin Yi was a little puzzled as to what kind of relationship Lin Dongfang had with Aunt Qing, since old Lin told him to come find him, then there must be a reason. So, Lin Yi still said it. Chapter 33:28. I say his name is Lin Dongfang. Do you know him, Aunt Qing? Lin Yi did not expect Aunt Qing to have such a huge reaction. This made him very puzzled. His name is Lin Dongfang? Lin Dongfang is your grandfather? At this moment, Aunt Qing lost her composure. Her eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. But more than that, there was excitement. There was news. There was finally news of him. However, Aunt Qing also had a faint sense of loss. He was married? Of course, his grandson was already so big. Lin Yi, Lin Dongfang. It turned out that Lin Yi was not an ordinary wandering cultivator, but a wandering cultivator with a very strong background. Although in the ancient times, it was not uncommon to have a few wives and concubines, Aunt Qing was still not very happy. After all, Lin Dongfang said that with his situation, he could not consider personal issues. Not that he did not like Aunt Qing. But now, not only was Lin Dongfang married, but even his grandson was so big. How could Aunt Qing be happy? Wasn't this a lie? So, at this moment, Aunt Qing was a little sad. So, he is already married. So, little Yi, you are his grandson. No wonder you are a hero. Married? Lin Yi was stunned. Looking at Aunt Qing's resentful gaze, he seemed to think of something and could not help but smile bitterly. Could this be the old man's lover when he was young? However, it wasn't appropriate for a young person like Lin Yi to get involved in these things. He could only tell the truth. Aunt Qing, my grandpa isn't married. I'm an orphan that he adopted. He can be counted as my master, as well as my family. Ah, so that's how it is? Little Qing's originally disappointed eyes suddenly became bright at this moment. The gaze that looked at Lin Yi also became a lot more kind. Lin Yi was Lin Dongfang's godson. Wasn't that the same as her own? It seemed that helping Lin Yi in the past was really the right thing to do. Aunt Qing's voice trembled as she asked, Your grandfather? Is he okay? Where is he? I don't know. He used a special method to contact me and told me to find you, but I don't know exactly what he is doing and what he is busy with. Although Lin Yi could see that the relationship between Aunt Qing and Lin Dongfang was definitely not ordinary, in order not to expose Lin Dongfang's whereabouts, he could only lie against his will. Ah, so that's how it is. Aunt Qing sighed. In fact, she had already guessed it. How could Lin Dongfang not have left with them? Grandpa said that it's fine for you to know about this. He doesn't want too many people to know. Lin Yi said. Oh, okay. Aunt Qing was a little surprised. From the looks of it, Lin Yi didn't seem to know Lin Dongfang's power. He also didn't know what Lin Dongfang's grandson represented in the ancient era. If he had told Bingtang about his background, would Bingtang have dared to say those words? Obviously not, and Lin Yi claimed to be a wandering cultivator. A hero doesn't ask about his background. He probably didn't know Lin Dongfang's true strength. Then, it also proved that Lin Dongfang left when Lin Yi was very young. Lin Yi was still ignorant at that time. Aunt Qing, I came to find you this time because of the person on me. As Lin Yi spoke, he put Wang Xinyan on the sofa in the living room and said, I heard that your sister's physique is very similar to hers. Lin Yi didn't say the rest of the sentence because he didn't need to say it. He believed that Aunt Qing could understand what Lin Yi meant. Sure enough, Aunt Qing's expression became serious. She looked at Wang Xinyan on the sofa and said, You said that she also has a sponge physique? Lin Yi nodded slowly and told Aunt Qing about Wang Xinyan's situation from beginning to end in detail. He also emphasized the matter of the orchid jade grass. In that case, if there are no accidents, it should be this kind of physique. After listening, Aunt Qing nodded slowly. You came to find me to find a solution, right? That's right. With this layer of relationship with Lin Dongfang, Lin Yi became closer to Aunt Qing. He spoke more naturally. I heard that Aunt Qing's sister also had this kind of physique. Then, on the road of cultivation, she had extraordinary achievements. Little Yi, since you are Dongfang's godson, you are the same as my junior. I will spare no effort in this matter to help you. Aunt Qing said, but, although I know my sister's situation very well, you have to know that her success can't be replicated. What do you mean? Linny was stunned. Back then, with the help of the Ice Palace's old palace master, my sister found a cultivation ground blessed by the heavens. Coupled with the mantra, she was able to quickly increase her strength and become a peak late-stage heaven realm expert. Auntie Ching said, however, that unique training ground contained limited heaven and earth spiritual energy. My sister used up more than half of it. Later, Palace Mistress Bingtang also cultivated there. Together with the cultivation of some disciples, that place was almost the same as an ordinary place. There was nothing special about it. In other words, without a training ground, just the mantra is useless, right? Linny frowned. Yes, Aunt Ching said with certainty. So that's how it is. Linny sighed slightly. This was very similar to what Lin Dongfang expected. In a place with abundant heaven and earth energy, Wang Xinyan could recover. Even if she didn't train, she could still live. But the problem now was, where could they find such a place? Linny pondered for a moment and couldn't help but ask, is there no substitute? Must it be a place with abundant heaven and earth energy? There seems to be another way. Let me think. With that, Aunt Ching closed her eyes and fell into deep thought. Linny didn't dare to disturb her. He quietly waited for Aunt Ching's answer. This was Linny's only hope. Linny didn't think that Wang Xinyan's physique would be so complicated. But no matter what, Wang Xinyan's problem was because of him. If he didn't absorb the fragrance in her body, Wang Xinyan would still be safe. At most, she couldn't expose her physique, and she couldn't become a practitioner. But even if she exposed her physique now, so what? If Wang Xinyan wanted to become a practitioner, she needed a place with abundant heaven and earth energy. It wasn't a place where she could train just because she wanted to. Chapter 33:29. Energy stones? Are they white? Linny paused and quickly asked. Not bad. It seems like you know about them. I thought you wouldn't know about such an ancient thing. I guess it was your grandfather who told you? Aunt Ching thought it was Linny who told her, but Linny didn't explain much. How many white energy stones do you need? Linny listened to Aunt Ching and calmed down a little. He was ready to go to Hakanamada Desert to find the Bubbly clan. If everything went smoothly, he could trade for some white energy stones, but Lin Yi didn't know the exact amount. In any case, Lin Yi would supply Wang Xinyan first. As for Han Jingjing's cauldron, so what if he didn't earn money from it? It's hard to say. If it was a normal practitioner, with such a large energy stone, it wouldn't be a problem to cultivate to the mystic or earth class. As Aunt Ching spoke, she gestured with her hand. It was roughly the size of Uncle Fu's stone. She then continued, but this kind of spongy physique is a lot more. If you want to cultivate to the yellow class, you'll need at least 30 to 50. What? Linny was shocked. 30 to 50? What kind of joke was this? And it was only golden class. If he needed so many energy stones when he just stepped on the path of training, then how much would he need to train on the internet? Linny guessed that he should be able to trade for energy stones from the Bubbly clan, but with so many, Linny wasn't sure. So, Linny asked for the next best thing. What if it's just to maintain a lifetime of peace and not training? Then you'll need about 10. Aunt Ching said, of course, this is just an estimate. There might be some discrepancies. Phew, 10 is not bad. Linny nodded. This time, no matter what price he had to pay, Linny would bring back 10 energy stones from the Bubbly clan, and the clan should have 10 extra. You have this kind of energy stone? Aunt Ching was surprised. This thing had been gone for hundreds of years. Where would Linny get it? No, but I plan to go to Hakanamada Desert to find the Bubbly clan and trade with them, Linny said. So that's how it is. Aunt Ching obviously knew about the Bubbly clan. If that's the case, I can only wish you success. Aunt Ching can't help you too much. I can only provide you with this information. However, if you want to cultivate, you can also try to find a way to see if elder sister left behind any cultivation methods and mnemonics. You haven't found it yet? Linny thought that Aunt Ching had the cultivation method, but it seemed like she didn't. There should be, but I can't be sure. That's because none of us can cultivate this mantra. It's useless even if we get it. So, after my sister left, I didn't deliberately look for it, Aunt Ching explained. Linny nodded. Then I won't bother you anymore. I have to go back and prepare to go to Hakanamada Desert. All right, Linny nodded. I won't disturb you then. I have to go back and prepare to go to Hakanamada Desert. All right. Aunt Xing nodded and hesitated for a moment before saying, if there is news of your grandfather, tell Aunt Xing about it. Okay. Linny smiled bitterly in his heart. Old Lin didn't want him to say anything, so he really didn't dare. Linny found Aunt Xing and got a relatively good answer, but whether or not Lin could find the Bubbly clan, and if he did, whether or not the deal would go through was still unknown. Linny had things on his mind, and naturally, he wouldn't stay long in the Ice Palace. After saying goodbye to Xiao Xiao, he said goodbye to Aunt Xing and Rock Candy and left the Ice Palace. It hadn't even been a day in the Ice Palace, and Xiao Xiao didn't want to leave, but she knew Lin Yi's character. Didn't Lin go around seeking medical help for her? So she didn't want to waste Lin Yi's precious time. Riding on the purple thunderbolt beast, Lin Yi returned to Donghai. Lin Yi came and went in a hurry, and Yushu was very surprised that Lin Yi got home so quickly. Shield bro, did you see Xiao Xiao? Can Xinyan sis be saved? Yushu asked, but her heart sank when she saw the unconscious Xinyan. There was no way Lin Yi would have carried Xinyan back if there was a way to save her. Yes, but it's a bit troublesome. I'm preparing to go to Hakanamada Desert tomorrow. Xinyan will stay at home and won't be coming. Shu, that place is pretty close to Fiery Mountain. Do you want to go and have a look? Lin Yi paused for a moment. I think I'll pass. I'll drag it out as long as I can. Don't I have to take care of Xinyan sis at home? Huang Mingyun of Flaming Mountain was Lin Yi's follower, but Yushu didn't want to be separated from him. She didn't know when she'd be back, and she was afraid that she'd have to stay at Flaming Mountain. All right. Lin Yi understood Yushu's thoughts, and he didn't force it. After returning to his room, Lin Yi started pondering. Who should he bring with him this time? Hakanamada Desert was filled with unknown dangers, and to be honest, the best person Lin Yi could bring was Udake. He'd been there once before, and while he didn't find the exact location of the White Energy Stone, he was very familiar with it. It was better than Lin Yi looking for it alone. With that in mind, Lin Yi dialed Udake's number. Mr. Lin? Udake was very surprised when he received Lin Yi's call. Lin Yi was his savior, and also the person who helped his sister. He'd always wanted to find a chance to meet up with Lin Yi again, but as Lin Yi's status rose, Lin Yi was no longer the person who relied on luck to escape from the hidden houses. During the Hidden House Summit, if it wasn't for Lin Yi's luck, he wouldn't have been able to escape from the attacks of the hidden houses. But now, Lin Yi didn't care about the hidden houses anymore. He'd be able to trample on the ancient houses, right? He heard that Lin Yi could instantly kill a Sky-class late-phase Peak Master. What kind of power was that? The gap between Udake and Lin Yi was getting bigger and bigger, and Udake was too embarrassed to contact Lin Yi anymore. It's me, Dake. How have you been? Are you doing well at Houseu? Lin Yi asked. Chapter 33:30. However, he didn't know what other arrangements Lin Yi had. He was afraid that after leaving, he wouldn't have anything else to do. How about this? I'll talk to you, Coiling Tiger, and then you can come to my villa to find me. I have something to talk to you about. Lin Yi said. Okay, Mr. Lin. Udake was surprised and happy. He was willing to have a relationship with Lin Yi. Who wouldn't want to follow a powerful person? With Udake's qualifications and the strength of the Yu clan, it would be very difficult to go further. Therefore, following Lin Yi was a shortcut. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yi directly called you Coiling Tiger. Ah, isn't this boss Lin Yi? What's the matter? Although you Coiling Tiger was unhappy with Lin Yi, he absolutely didn't dare to say it out loud. Now, he didn't have any thoughts of revenge against Lin Yi. When the difference in strength between the two was too great, and even you Coiling Tiger's backer couldn't do anything to Lin Yi, what thoughts did you Coiling Tiger have? Obviously not. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to implicate the hidden Yu clan. I want someone from you, Lin Yi said. Ah. You Coiling Tiger was shocked and said with a bitter face, Boss Lin Yi, what person do you want? Don't accuse me wrongly. How would I dare to kidnap someone from you? You Coiling Tiger obviously misunderstood. He thought that Lin Yi said that he kidnapped Lin Yi's friend. In the past, He didn't know fear and dared to kidnap Guan Xian with Kong Ming Ming. But now, how would he dare? Even if he ate 100 chi-gathering pills and became a peak late-stage heaven-class master, he still wouldn't dare to act rashly in front of Lin Yi. Even a peak late-stage heaven-class master would die in Lin Yi's hands. Don't say these useless things. There's a person called Udake, right? Lin Yi asked. Udake? There seems to be. Right? Coiling Tiger was stunned. He thought for a moment and said, Boss Lin Yi, are you talking about this person? Did he offend you? This person is just a guest disciple of our Yu family. He's not a member of our Yu family. I'm going to punish him now. I'm not asking you to punish him. I'm looking for him for something else. Lin Yi interrupted Pan Hu Yu's words and said, He's been working for your family for many years, right? Give him something good and let him come to me. Sure, no problem. Right? Pan Hu quickly agreed after listening. It was not easy for a guest to leave the family, let alone be given travel expenses. This was a treatment that could only be obtained after making great contributions. However, when Lin Yi spoke, Pan Hu agreed without thinking because in his opinion, this was a small matter. If the Yu family really provoked Lin Yi, it would be a big deal. Lin Yi didn't talk much nonsense with Pan Hu Yu. He hung up the phone and waited for Udake to come to the door. Udake's speed was not slow. Of course, this was also thanks to the hidden Yu family's villa not far from Lin Yi's villa. Udake? How come it's you? Yushu was watching TV in the living room. Someone knocked on the door. She walked over and opened the door. When she saw Udake, she was a little strange. Shu, hello. Mr. Lin Yi asked me to come. Is he here? Udake asked politely. Oh, Shield Bro is in the bedroom. I'll call him for you. However, before Yushu could speak, Lin Yi pushed the door open and walked out. Udake, you're here. Sit down and talk. Lin Yi made a gesture to Udake. Okay, Mr. Lin, I don't know why you asked me to come. Udake was actually a little puzzled. Why did Lin Yi suddenly ask him to come here? It's like this. I'm going to the Hakanamada Desert. To put it bluntly, it's to find the kind of energy stone you gave me. Lin Yi didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose. I haven't been there, but you've been there once. So, if we go together, it will be much easier with you as a guide. Of course, no problem. Udake agreed almost without thinking. He had always been grateful to Lin Yi in his heart. He was worried that he didn't have a chance to repay Lin Yi. Now that Lin Yi had something to ask of him, how could he refuse? Hee, it's good that there's no problem. Lin Yi nodded and said, Then you pack up. We'll leave tomorrow. That's fine. But, can I bring another person with me? Udake hesitated. He knew that it wasn't good to ask Lin Yi. After all, he was looking for him to lead the way for treasure hunting. What was wrong with bringing another person? Did he want a share of the loot? But Udake really didn't think so. He had his own thoughts and goals, so he still asked tentatively. Oh, who are you bringing? Lin Yi frowned slightly. Although he didn't directly refuse, his tone was a little unhappy. He didn't want too many people to know that he was going to the Hakanamada Desert, but Udake had used Xiaoka's relationship, so Lin Yi had to give him face. Udake wasn't a blind person. He saw Lin Yi's unhappy face and suddenly felt a little awkward. He rubbed his hands and said carefully, Actually, I want to bring my sister Xiaoka with me. If it's too difficult, then forget it. Xiaoka? Lin Yi paused and smiled. Why didn't you say so earlier? Of course, she can go, but what's the use of bringing her? It's like this. Don't I have a secret art passed down in my family? My home used to be in the Hakuna Mata Desert. The absolute study is hidden in the Hakuna Mata Desert. I want Xiaoku to go there because of the absolute study. Udake did not hide and directly stated his purpose. Oh, Xiaoka's strength is weaker. Can she go with us? How about we take the secret art back and give it to her? To be honest, Lin Yi was a little worried. He was afraid that Xiaoka's strength was weak and she would encounter some danger. That's not impossible, but according to some information passed down by my family, if I were to practice the first level of the unique skill in my family, it would be easier to get started. I won't need it in the future. Udake said. Chapter 33-31. Okay, Thank you, Mr. Lin, Udake said happily. Actually, even if Linny didn't go to Hakanamada Desert, he still wanted to find a chance to go there. However, he didn't plan on looking for energy stones. He just wanted to get Xiaoka's practitioner's arts chant. The reason why he didn't bring Xiaoka was because he wasn't that strong. But Linny was different. He could kill a Sky-class late phase peak in one hit. He had enough power to protect Xiaoka, so even if there was danger, Lin-Yi would be there. Udake said goodbye to Lin-Yi and left the villa, getting into a Wrangler off-road vehicle. It was a gift from Right Ponhu, so at least he had a means of transportation. Recently, Xiaoka had finally caught her breath. The construction of the orphanage had reached a certain scale, and it was now the largest charity home in the province. Not only did they provide for abandoned babies, but they also provided free medical aid for families who were in trouble. One had to know that some parents abandoned sick babies not because they were heartless, but because they really didn't have the money to treat them. Instead of letting their children die in their own home, they might as well try their luck and see if a kind-hearted person would pick them up, raise them, and treat them. If they could cure the child, they wouldn't abandon the child, and so Xiaoka's orphanage provided free aid to this group of families. The construction of the medical building in the orphanage had already been completed. Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was in this industry, building a hospital, and with Guan Shuamin's position in the medical school, many students would join this hospital. Moreover, with Guan Shuamin's son Guan Xiaoxiang's rich experience in running a hospital, it would be easy for him to send a director who knew how to manage. So, even though the orphanage's hospital was newly built, its technical level wasn't bad at all. There were many people coming and going. What surprised Xiaoka the most was that there was a huge amount of money in the orphanage's account. This money was transferred from abroad, and although this was a public donation account, there was a limit to how much they could donate. Each donation was in the tens of millions, but now it was in the hundreds of millions, and it was in euros. Xiaoka didn't know what to do with this. Who would donate such a huge amount of money? Xiaoka might believe it if it was a donation from within the country, but she didn't believe it if it was from overseas. How could foreigners know about her orphanage? Even if they knew, they wouldn't donate this much, right? And so, Xiaoka instinctively thought that this money had something to do with Lin-Yi, but she didn't rule out the possibility that it was the male thief who sent it. She didn't know why, but she felt that it was more likely to be Lin-Yi. Sometimes, Xiaoka had to admit that the male thief didn't give her as much money as Lin-Yi did. So, the more she thought about calling Lin-Yi, the more she wanted to ask him if he was the one who got the money. But Xiaoka was afraid that Lin-Yi would become arrogant and ask for more from her that would put Xiaoka in an even more difficult position. But Xiaoka wasn't someone who didn't know how to repay favors. She hesitated and called Lin-Yi, but Lin-Yi's phone was turned off. Helpless, Lin-Yi could only ask Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai couldn't find Lin-Yi, so he called Yushu and learned that Lin-Yi went overseas to Europe. Fatty Lai told Xiaoka about it. This time, Xiaoka didn't doubt it anymore. Lin-Yi must have gotten the money. But the more she thought about it, the more she felt that she owed Lin-Yi. Logically speaking, this money was for the orphanage, and Xiaoka didn't spend a single cent herself. She had every reason to treat Lin-Yi as a good person, and there was no need for her to feel conflicted. There were so many foundations in the world, and if the person in charge of each foundation were to feel conflicted about the donors, it would be a mess, wouldn't it? But Xiaoka saw herself as a member of the orphanage. Even if the money wasn't spent on her, she still felt that it was for her. This was the main reason why Xiaoka was worried. Now, the orphanage was finally on the right track, and Xiaoka wasn't as busy as before. To put it bluntly, she was of little use now. The orphanage was on the right track, and she didn't need to think of ways to get funds anymore. But the more idle she was, the more she was afraid that Lin-Yi would find her. And so, Xiaoka lived her days in a dilemma. Today, an uninvited guest came to her office. Xiaoka looked carefully and realized that it was her brother. Brother, why are you here? Xiaoka was pleasantly surprised. Her brother hadn't come back since he left last time. Xiaoka missed him, but she didn't know how to contact him. She wanted to ask Lin-Yi, but she was afraid of walking into a tiger's mouth. Xiaoka, how have you been recently? I didn't expect this orphanage to be this big. The last time you date came, the orphanage wasn't this big. Not bad. Brother, how about you? Xiaoka asked. I've left the hidden house you. I'm free now, and I can spend more time with you in the future. But Xiaoka, are you free? I'm going back to our old home tomorrow. Are you free? If you are, let's go together. Udake didn't have much time to waste since they had to leave tomorrow morning. He had to talk to Xiaoka about it at night. Home? Xiaoka was adopted by the headmaster when she was young. She didn't remember much at that time, so she didn't have much of a concept of home. Now that Udake brought it up, she naturally wanted to go back and see her home. A real home? It's okay. I'm not too busy these days. Are we leaving tomorrow? Isn't it a bit rushed? Although many things are on the right track, I still need to make some arrangements. Yes, tomorrow. This time, Mr. Lin is looking for me. We'll go back together. Mr. Lin is in a hurry, so we have to go to Donghai City first thing in the morning and leave with him, Udake said. Chapter 33-32. And so, Xiaoka's face darkened. What is he going to do? Bro, can't we go back ourselves? What's wrong with Linny going back? I don't want him to go with us. Ahem. Dake paused, knowing that Xiaoka had misunderstood. He quickly explained, Xiaoka, Mr. Lin's main goal isn't to go home with us. He has something to do in the desert nearby. I think that it's closer to our home, so I suggested bringing you along. Really? Xiaoka didn't believe him. He's going to do something. Why would he look for you? Xiaoka, you misunderstood. Mr. Lin likes you, but he doesn't have any other intentions. Dake quickly explained. He didn't want his sister to misunderstand him as her savior. Actually, it's like this. I have to start from the treasure map I gave him. With that, Dake told Xiaoka about the white energy stone and the treasure map. He didn't tell Xiaoka about these things in detail before. After all, they met in a hurry and didn't have the chance to talk about these things. Then, Dake told her about the family heirloom art and his request to bring Xiaoka along. He told her about the benefits of training at home. After that, Xiaoka realized that she had misunderstood Lin Yi. It seemed like she had a huge prejudice against him, but if he didn't like her and wanted to pursue her, would she misunderstand? I see. Xiaoka was a little embarrassed, but the person in front of her was her brother. It wasn't Linny, so she didn't mind. Then, let's go, but if Linny wants to get close to me, you have to help me block him. I'll try my best. Udake was actually quite optimistic about Linny and his sister being together, but his sister already had someone she liked. This was a difficult thing to handle, and Udake wasn't sure what to do. Since Xiaoka had decided to go, she got busy and arranged things for the orphanage. She let Xiao Qin temporarily take over her position as vice principal, in charge of the operations of the orphanage. The next morning, Xiaoka sat in Dake's car and went to Donghai City, in front of Lin Yi's villa. Xiaoka frowned as she looked at Lin Yi's villa. Such a big villa. How much did it cost? It'd be better if it was given to the orphanage. Xiaoka's voice was soft, but Udake was a practitioner. There was no one else in the car, so of course he heard it clearly. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Udake knew how much money Xiaoka's orphanage had after chatting with Xiaoka last night. It was a lot of money, and it was impossible to spend it all. Xiaoka was still thinking about other people's villas. Udake was speechless. However, Xiaoka was just saying it. She was that kind of person, spending every cent she had in half. She did her best for the orphanage. Xiaoka, come with me and wait for Mr. Lin, Dake said to Xiaoka after parking the car. He's a big figure. Do I have to wait for him? Xiaoka said, but still got off the car. After all, Lin Yi donated so much money to the orphanage. Even if Xiaoka didn't like him, she had to put on an act, right? Lin Yi heard the car in the yard and came out of the villa. He saw Dake with a smile and Xiaoka with a depressed face. He found it funny that Xiaoka was still treating him like an enemy. Drive my car. Your car is a little small, Lin Yi said and pointed at the Jeep Cherokee in the yard. Okay, I'll drive. Dake had the awareness of being a follower. His life was given to him by Lin Yi, and it was only right for him to be at Lin Yi's beck and call. However, Xiaoka was a little annoyed. Wasn't her brother being too attentive? What if he sold himself out? Dake got on the car, and Lin Yi wanted to sit in the back and talk to Xiaoka about the orphanage. After all, Lin Yi had given the orphanage some money through Heelwan. and there was a box of money in his jade space. He wanted to give all of it to Xiaoka, but Xiaoka wasn't happy about it. I'm going to sleep in the back later. You can sit in the front. Xiaoka wasn't being unreasonable, but she was afraid that Lin Yi would touch her in the back. How would she deal with him then? She couldn't fall out with Lin Yi, but she couldn't tolerate it either, right? So, Xiaoka still thought that Lin Yi should sit in the front. Dake started the car and drove towards the direction of Hakanamada Desert. Lin Yi could ride the purple lightning beast, but it couldn't fit so many people, so it was more convenient to drive. Dake was helpless against Xiaoka's lack of respect. Xiaoka, Mr. Lin is sitting in the back because he wants to discuss the orphanage with you. He was helping Lin Yi, but how would he know that Lin Yi really thought that way? It was just that Dake wanted to create an opportunity for Lin Yi. Can't we talk like that? Xiaoka said. Haha, it's nothing much. Did you receive the money from before? It's from abroad, Lin Yi asked. Yes, it's you, thank you. Xiaoka thought that it was Lin Yi, but the more it was like this, the more unhappy she was. After all, she owed Lin Yi more and more. I have a box of money here. I'll give it to you too. It's from abroad. With that, Lin Yi took out the money pouch from the jade space. Right, this is in euros as well, but it shouldn't be too hard for you, right? The box of money I gave you at the market was in foreign currencies as well. Lin Yi suddenly stopped talking, because Lin Yi realized that he got the wrong identity. At the cultivator's market, Lin Yi was the male thief in front of Xiaoka, not Lin Yi. What market did you give me a box of foreign currency? Xiaoka froze and looked at Lin Yi, confused. However, even though she was confused, she was shocked when Lin Yi took out a big bag of money. Where did the money come from? Lin Yi didn't take the money when he got in the car. Did he leave it in the front passenger seat? The car was parked in the yard. Wasn't he afraid of losing it? Chapter 33. Plus, how could her brother not see it when he got on the car? It's fine. I meant that I transferred a bunch of foreign currency to your bank account. The orphanage is getting bigger now, and you guys are getting a lot of donations. The foreign currency isn't that eye-catching anymore. Lin Yi said, covering it up. It wasn't that Lin Yi was careless, but Lin Yi didn't have the concept. After all, the person was Lin Yi. It was normal for Lin Yi to get confused after a while. Oh, that's a lot of money. The money from before is more or less enough. The orphanage has passed the period of rapid development, and we're stabilizing. We don't need so much money anymore. Xiaoka didn't know if she should take the money or not. She would feel uneasy if she took the money. You take it first. It's a second-level automatic cauldron. It's still unknown. I'm afraid that Lu Jinghan and Fatty Lie's business will shrink, and we won't have enough money to support you guys, Lin Yi said. Oh, then, I can't take so much money. Xiaoka was tempted by Lin Yi's words. But how is she going to take so much money? Oh, I'll give it to you when we get back. Lin Yi threw the bag of money into the jade space. If Xiaoka didn't see it clearly before, she was shocked now. Where did the money go? Xiaoka's eyes widened, but she couldn't figure out where Lin Yi hid the money. Was this a magic trick? Even magic tricks couldn't be this powerful, right? One had to know that close-range magic required props and support, but Lin Yi was different. Her brother was driving, and Xiaoka just stood there and watched as the bag of money disappeared. There was only so much space in the car, and there was no place to hide the money. This didn't fit the laws of space science. Your money. Where did it go? Xiaoka asked curiously. I'm not telling you, Lin Yi said. He wanted to tease Xiaoka. In fact, Dake was also puzzled. How did the money disappear when Lin Yi changed hands? Could it be a ghost? However, Dake didn't ask about these things. Anyway, he knew that Lin Yi was outstanding. On the other hand, Xiaoka paused and asked curiously after hearing Lin Yi's words. Where did he go? That's impossible. Xiaoka said as she looked at the front passenger seat. She didn't see the bag of money from before, which made her even more confused. Hee, I only tell my own people. If you want to be my girlfriend, I will tell you. Lin Yi laughed. Xiaoka's face changed. I don't want to know anymore. Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't say anything else. After all, he couldn't tell others about the jade space. Even if Lin Yi trusted Xiaoka, he couldn't. So he used this reason to stop Xiaoka from asking. The car moved forward slowly. Dake's driving skills were quite good, and he knew the roads well. The journey was uneventful, and Yushauka evidently didn't want to talk to Lin Yi. She fell asleep as soon as they got on the road. One reason was that she was really tired. She'd been busy with the orphanage all this time, and now that she could finally relax, she naturally wanted to rest. Second, she really didn't know what to say to Lin Yi. Thank Lin Yi? She was very grateful, but what if Lin Yi asked her to marry him? Udake was helpless about this, but he knew that he couldn't control his sister's thoughts. He didn't dare to offend Lin Yi, so he could only drive quietly. Dake, is your family from the Hakanamada Desert? Lin Yi asked. That's right, I grew up there. Udake sighed as he recalled the events of the past. Back then, he was also the young master of a practitioner family. Although his family couldn't be said to be particularly large, it was at least stronger than the current hidden families. It could even be compared to the ancient families. But, because he offended a group of people, his whole family was killed. Fortunately, Udake had taken his sister out to play and wasn't at home, so he had escaped the disaster. However, when he carried his sleeping sister home, he saw from afar that the group of people had killed his parents, family, uncles, and siblings. Not a single one was spared. At that time, Udake was very indignant, but he was also deeply helpless. He clenched his fists tightly, but he didn't dare to make the slightest movement. Although he wanted to rush over and stop these people's evil deeds, he also knew that he couldn't stop them with his own strength. He was just a child who had just entered the path of cultivation. How could he compete with these people? So, what he could do was to remember the faces of these people and bury this hatred in his heart. Back then, he secretly swore that one day, he would definitely take revenge. However, as he grew older, Udake deeply understood a principle, and that was that his strength was really too low. After so many years, he was still just an Earth-class expert. His achievements were just a guest of the Hidden Yu family. He wasn't even as strong as a secular family. How could he take revenge with just this? After so many years, he didn't even know who his enemies were, let alone take revenge. Sometimes, people had to face reality. When their ability was seriously insufficient, they could only give up some ideas in their hearts. Udake used to be like this. He knew that if he continued to mingle in the Yu family, he might not be able to take revenge for the rest of his life. This was also the reason why he wanted to commit suicide when he was seriously injured. But when he met Lin Yi, hope was reignited. If the rumors in the pugilistic world were true during this period of time, that Lin Yi could instantly kill an expert with the strength of the peak late stage of heaven class, then Lin Yi would be a peak existence in the entire cultivation world. Even an expert at the peak of perfection would not dare to boast that he could instantly kill an expert with the strength of the peak late stage of heaven class. However, Udake also knew that Lin Yi only treated him as an ordinary friend. This was also because of Yushauka. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him and Lin Yi to cross paths in the future. Therefore, in fact, in the depths of Udake's heart, he was still inclined to let Yushauka follow Lin Yi. First, Lin Yi was the savior of their family. Second, Lin Yi had the ability to take revenge for their family. Chapter 33-34. Udake couldn't force his sister to do it for vengeance. That was an action blinded by hatred. Udake had calmed down after so many years. Thinking of all these, Udake sighed lightly. But that's all in the past. Let's not talk about it. There seems to be a story behind it. Lin Yi looked at Udake. He could hear a faint sadness in Udake's tone. In fact, Lin Yi vaguely knew about Udake's past. He was probably a person with a story. At this time, the journey was still long, and Yushauka didn't speak. So, Lin Yi and Udake could only chat together. I won't hide it from you, Mr. Lin. Actually, my family was annihilated. Udake wanted to ask for help from Lin Yi, but he didn't know how to ask. Now that Lin Yi took the initiative to ask, he naturally didn't hide it anymore. He told the story to Lin Yi, hoping that Lin Yi would be merciful enough to help him. What? Yushauka was sleeping, but she suddenly sat up with a pale face. It seemed that Yushauka wasn't asleep at all. She was just pretending to sleep because she didn't want to talk to Lin Yi. But now, she heard that her family was annihilated. She couldn't pretend to sleep anymore. Lin Yi, on the other hand, frowned slightly. He didn't expect Udake to have such a tragic experience, annihilation. Then you and Xiaoke. At that time, I was only 4 years old. I took Xiaoke out to play and escaped a calamity. Xiaoke didn't remember anything at that time, but I remember everything that happened at that time. Udake couldn't help but sigh. He continued, originally, this matter has been buried in my heart, so I didn't tell Xiaoke so much. But now, since it has come to this, I won't hide it anymore. Who did it? Linny asked. What's the reason? I'm not too sure about the specifics. It seems that they offended someone. I was too young, and I couldn't remember the reason. I could only barely remember the faces of the leaders. Udake shook his head helplessly. But, after I grew up, I kept asking for their whereabouts, but there was no news. After all, our family was in the foreign land at that time, and we weren't close to the practitioners in Huaxia. They didn't even hear of the foreign lands you house, so they wouldn't know who our enemies were. Linny nodded. There were too many grudges in the ancient world, and these weren't things that Lin Yi could see. Every era had its own strong people, but these strong people had different personalities. Some bullied the weak, and some didn't offend others if they didn't offend them. Just like the current Lin Yi, he wouldn't take the initiative to bully others, but if this person offended him, then Lin Yi would take action. Of course, in many cases, Lin Yi would still give the other party a chance, but the other party didn't know how to grasp it. Udake's family might have been bullied by others, or it could have been that Udake's family had offended someone they couldn't afford to offend, resulting in the current situation. If it was the former, then there was a possibility that Lin Yi would choose to help. After all, he had a relationship with Yu Xiaoke, but if it was the latter, then Lin Yi wouldn't stand up for them. Lin Yi wasn't an unreasonable person, and if House Yu really offended someone else and got annihilated, then it could only be said that they were unlucky. In the world of cultivation, the weak are prey to the strong. That's the logic. Lin Yi said faintly, sometimes, you don't have to care too much. For example, the common House Yu and the hidden House Zhao were annihilated because of me, but this matter can't be said to be my fault for bullying them. If they didn't provoke me, I wouldn't have provoked them. Mr. Lin, I understand what you mean, but House Yu's family motto is to help others. Helping others is helping ourselves. I may be young, but my parents taught me that as a person of the martial world, we must have a chivalrous heart. When others are in trouble, we must lend a helping hand. How could a family like this bully others? It's completely different from the common House Yu and the hidden House Zhao. They deserved it. But Udake naturally understood what Lin Yi meant, so he quickly explained. Oh? Lin Yi was slightly surprised. He didn't expect House Yu to be like this, but this was similar to Yu Xiaoke's personality. Perhaps Yu Xiaoke had inherited her personality from her family? Although she didn't know much at that time, some things were naturally like this. So, Lin Yi unconsciously believed Udake's words. Moreover, he didn't think that Udake had a reason to lie to him. After all, if this matter was really investigated, with Lin Yi's level, he would be able to find out. Lin Yi's current level was different from Udake's. His power was limited to the hidden level, and it was limited to the hidden House of Yu. But Lin Yi was different now. Lin Yi was a famous figure in the ancient level, and he had Gu Xian, who was a spy. Dake, there's something I have to tell you. Perhaps it was because of this that your family was annihilated. Although Lin Yi's words weren't pleasant to hear, he had his own thoughts. Oh? Why? Did I do something wrong? Yu Xiaoke wasn't happy. Her family was annihilated. It was a very sad thing, but wasn't Lin Yi mocking her? Yu Xiaoke, then let me ask you. Why were you surrounded by a group of thieves in the past? You stole money to do a good deed, but they didn't think so. They felt that you broke their rules, so they gave you trouble. Lin Yi said faintly. Perhaps your family helped others in the past, but became a thorn in their side. Yu Xiaoke was shocked. Yes, she thought too simply. After hearing what Lin Yi said, she understood that her family might have made a mistake because they helped others. Chapter 33-35. Dake, don't be disappointed. If that's the case, I can see if I can help you. After all, it's not your fault. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, I hate families like the Hidden Zhao family, but not families like yours. Ah, thank you, Mr. Lin. Udake was surprised and happy. He thought that he had no chance of revenge at all. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would actually agree to his revenge. Although Lin Yi's words had preconditions, Udake knew his family well. They wouldn't take the initiative to cause trouble. Therefore, this matter was definitely not far from the truth. In the Hakanamada Desert, there was a very solemn castle. Of course, people who didn't know would think that it was a virtual image similar to a mirage. After all, these things were very common in the desert. However, this castle really existed. This was the location of the Paoli clan. They lived in the Hakanamada Desert. Today, there were two uninvited guests standing in front of the castle. These two uninvited guests were Kong Mingming and Little One from the Five Elements sect. They were ordered by Ancestor Xianxin to come here and reach a deal with the Paoli clan. Brother Kong, it seems that the navigation given by that old thing is quite accurate. Little One pointed to a GPS device in Kong Mingming's hand and said in surprise, "Of course, it's pure idiot who doesn't use advanced technology." In other words, that idiot Lin Yi is still following the map. Kong Mingming said proudly, "If it weren't for our people here, we really wouldn't have been able to come here so quickly. If Lin Yi had come first, it would have been difficult." "Yes, now it seems that we should be quite fast." Little One nodded. "Who are you?" "This is a private restricted area. Please don't go any further. Please return quickly." Just as the two were talking, a strange-looking man with pointy ears and triangular eyes wearing a totem quietly appeared in front of Kong Xiaoming and Little Yi and scolded them. Kong Mingming and Little One were startled by the appearance of this man in totem robes. This person was actually an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. He was an expert on the same level as Xiao Yi. That's right. The man in the totem attire had taken the initiative to reveal his strength. In his opinion, if these two people were cultivators, they would definitely be able to sense his strength. Since they were intimidated, they wouldn't act rashly. If they were just ordinary people, then even if they didn't reveal their strength, ordinary people wouldn't be able to sense it. They would only be able to sense some sort of majesty. "Brother, are you an expert of the Bubble Fire clan? We're cultivators from the central plains of the eastern lands, and we're on our way to your clan to discuss something with you." Kong Mingming calmed himself down and carefully cupped his fists. "Oh, cultivators from the central plains?" The man in the totem attire was stunned and couldn't help but frown. "Which sect are you from?" The Bubble Fire clan and the cultivators from the central plains hadn't been in contact for hundreds of years. At this time, the man in the totem attire was naturally a little strange when two people suddenly appeared. However, since it was a special visit, the man in the totem attire had to ask about their origins. "We're from the Five Elements sect. This is our eldest senior brother, the eldest disciple of the acting head of the Five Elements sect, Ancestor Xianxin. As for me, I'm the son-in-law of Ancestor Xianxin," Kong Mingming said. When it came to the matter of the sect head, Kong Mingming really didn't dare to talk nonsense. Ancestor Xianxin, that is, Boss Bai, hadn't died yet. No matter what, it was impossible for Ancestor Xianxin to claim to be the sect head. Because the sect head of the Five Elements sect had been chosen by the previous generation's sect head, it was impossible to change the position at will, unless this person died and his junior brother could replace him. The current situation was that Boss Bai hadn't died yet. So although Ancestor Xianxin was the actual controller of the Five Elements sect, he didn't dare to violate the rules of the Five Elements sect. He was also afraid of challenging Boss Bai's bottom line. In any case, the acting head and the official head were only a matter of title. The power was the same, so Ancestor Xianxin didn't care about this. "Oh, so you two are experts from the Five Elements sect. Wait a moment, I'll report this matter to my father." The man in the totem suit naturally knew about the Five Elements sect. As a disciple of the Bubbly clan, he would understand the history of the Bubbly clan's development since he was a child. Among them was the trade with the Central Plains. As the middleman, it was the Five Elements sect, so the Bubbly clan was very friendly to the Five Elements sect. Although the man in the totem suit didn't know them, it didn't affect his deep-rooted thoughts since he was a child. So, his attitude toward the two immediately changed. Well said, brother. please. Kong Ming Ming suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that what Ancestor Shinshin said was right. The Bubbly clan was very friendly to the people of the Five Elements sect. Now, from the other party's attitude, it could be seen that at least half of the matter was successful. The man in the totem suit flashed and entered the castle. Kong Ming Ming and Little E didn't follow him. These two people knew their identity. They came to visit the Five Elements sect to ask for help. How could they act rashly? The man in the totem suit directly entered a huge square hall in the castle. Inside the square hall, an old man was sitting on a wooden armchair. He was resting with his eyes closed. When he saw the man in the totem suit coming in, he suddenly opened his eyes and asked, "Tortu, who came to visit outside?" The man in the totem suit was called Tortu. He was the old man's third son. "Father, there are two cultivators from the Central Plains Five Elements sect outside the door. They said that they want to visit our Bubbly clan." Tortu said, "Oh, the Central Plains Five Elements sect?" The old man's eyebrows twitched. He was somewhat surprised. But then, he nodded and said, "Let them come in to see me. Also, call your eldest brother, second brother, and the elders." "Yes," Tortu quickly responded. He went out of the square hall and sent a follower to inform his eldest brother, second brother, and the elders. As for himself, he once again returned to the entrance of the castle. "Brother, how is it?" Kong Ming Ming saw that Tortu had returned and quickly asked, "Please come in. My father wants to see you." Tortu said and made an inviting gesture. "All right." Kong Ming Ming and Little E quickly followed behind. In the square hall of the castle, Tortu's eldest brother Tortai, second brother Torkong, and the three elders of the Bubbly clan were standing behind Tortu's father, Tori and Moon. Chapter 33-36. I'm Kong Ming Ming from the Five Elements sect in the Central Plains of the East. I'm the son-in-law of our Five Elements sect's acting sect master, Ancestor Shinshin. This is my eldest senior brother. Kong Ming Ming introduced himself. Thor Remoon looked at Kong Ming Ming and Little E from head to toe. His eyes were like torches, making Kong Ming a little uncomfortable. At this time, Thor Remoon suddenly asked, "As far as I know, the current sect master of Five Elements sect is Ancestor Shinshin. How did it become Ancestor Shinshin?" Although the Bubbly clan was in the Outland, it didn't mean that they didn't care about the cultivation sects in the Central Plains. It might not be easy for those cultivation sects to inquire about the Bubbly clan. After all, the Bubbly clan was a closed family. However, it wasn't too difficult for the Bubbly clan to inquire about those cultivation sects. After all, these cultivation sects weren't closed. This Ancestor Shinshin. Because of other matters, he is no longer in Five Elements sect. Our Five Elements sect is now under my father-in-law, Ancestor Shinshin. Kong Ming Ming said vaguely. "Oh, Ancestor Shinshin, I also know." The Remoon just casually asked. He was old and experienced. When he heard Kong Ming Ming's tone, he knew that the Five Elements sect might be in discord. But after all, this was an internal matter of Five Elements sect. The Remoon didn't want to care too much. "Do the two of you have a token?" "Yes, here is a letter written by my father-in-law, Ancestor Shinshin, to your clan. Please have a look, old patriarch." Kong Xiaoming could tell that Thor Ryu was the person in charge of the Paoli clan, so he directly handed the letter to him. Tortu didn't let Kong Ming Ming approach Thor Remoon. Instead, he handed the letter to Thor Remoon. When Thor Remoon opened the letter and saw the special communication code between Five Elements sect and Bubbly clan, he finally confirmed the identity of Kong Ming Ming and Little E. The letter didn't say anything, just some greetings. The last thing was that Kong Ming Ming and Little E had something to discuss with Bubbly clan. Sure enough, a friend from Five Elements sect. "Have a seat." Thor Ryu nodded and gestured with his hand. Tortu promptly moved two chairs for Kong Ming Ming and Little One. After they sat down, he stood to the side once again. It looked like the Paoli clan's rules were very strict. Even a peak heaven rank expert like Tortu didn't have a seat in front of the elders. "Thank you very much," Kong Ming Ming and Xiao Yi quickly said. "What's the matter for the two of you to come here from afar?" Thor asked after putting down the letter. "Old clan, We have actually come here with the intention of reaching an agreement with the Paoli clan, Kong Mingming said. What agreement? Let's hear the specifics. Thor Ryu asked flatly. Before figuring out whether the matter was beneficial to the Paoli clan, Thor Ryu wouldn't easily express his position. It's like this: in a few days, there may be a cultivator from our central plains who will come here to buy your clan's white energy stones. I hope your clan can refuse the transaction. Kong Mingming didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his intention. Oh, why is that? Thor Ryu didn't expect Kong Mingming to put forward such a request. Of course, he didn't rush to express his position and just asked a question. I won't say much about the specific reason. We are sworn enemies. Of course, in return, we can give some benefits, such as some cultivation resources, treasures, and so on. Kong Xiaoming changed the topic and continued. Of course, if your noble family is willing to help us kill this person, we can provide even greater benefits. For example, we can specially refine some rare medicinal pills for your noble family. I believe Old Patriarch is also aware of our 5 Elements sect's elixir refining technology. Oh, Thor Ryu was really interested in elixirs. He knew his clan well. Because of cultivation deviation, he tried to forcibly attack the Heaven's Way, but failed. His meridians were broken, and he became a cripple. If he could take a top-grade 4th-grade Great Revitalizing Pill, then he could recover. Nothing could be more painful for a cultivator than this, and he was still the patriarch of the Paoli clan. Although he lost his strength, his son and the elders didn't disrespect him. But the more it was like this, the more uncomfortable he felt in his heart. How could a cripple with no strength be respected by others? Therefore, all these years, his only thought was to find a way to recover as soon as possible, so that he wouldn't miss the future Heaven Step Island plan. He regretted it now. If he wasn't so anxious to attack the Heaven's Way, he wouldn't have become like this. And the arrival of Kong Mingming gave him a glimmer of hope. Although the hope wasn't big, he could still try. Besides, even if Kong Mingming didn't say anything about white energy stones, Thor Ryu wouldn't trade them with others. There weren't many white energy stones left, and the Paoli clan wanted to keep them for their own use. It was impossible to exchange them for others. As for killing Kong Mingming's sworn enemy, it would depend on Kong Mingming's sincerity and the difficulty of this matter. What grade of elixir can you refine? Thor Ryu asked calmly. Moreover, isn't the best alchemist in your 5 Elements sect Old Ancestor Mysterious Sky? Isn't he the current pill god? It seems that there should be some conflict within your 5 Elements sect, right? Can you still let him refine elixirs for you? Old Ancestor Mysterious Sky is a thing of the past. Don't mention it. Kong Mingming obviously didn't want to talk too much about Boss Bai, so he said, Old Patriarch, you may not understand, but the best alchemist in our 5 Elements sect is my second martial uncle Old Ancestor Mysterious Sky. He can refine 3rd-grade elixirs with ease, and he is now in seclusion to become a higher-level alchemist. 4th-grade elixirs are just around the corner. 4th-grade elixirs are just around the corner? Thor Ryu's eyes lit up slightly. If he could really refine 4th-grade elixirs, then his injuries could really be cured. Thinking of this, Thor Ryu asked, if you can refine a top-grade 4th-grade Great Recovery Pill for me, then we can consider agreeing to your request. Thor Ryu's words made the other Paoli clan members present a little excited. Yes, if they could really get a top-grade 4th-grade Great Recovery Pill, then this deal could be done no matter how difficult it was. Chapter 33-37. I have heard of Shinjin Ancestor, an alchemist second only to Shin Tian Ancestor. Thor Ryu nodded. Shin Tian Ancestor has been crippled. His meridians are broken. How can he be compared to my second martial uncle? Kong Mingming quickly said, dispelling the idea of Thor Ryu looking for Shin Tian Ancestor. He wanted to confirm this matter. In fact, Kong Mingming's words were just drawing a big cake to attract the bubbly clan. How could Kong Mingming not know the level of Shinjin Ancestor? He had tried to break through to the 4th-grade alchemist several times and failed. How could a 4th-grade pill be so easy to refine? But Kong Mingming's promise didn't violate anything. When we can refine it, we will definitely refine it for you first, but now we can't. so you can only wait, right? Therefore, Kong Ming Ming can make the decision himself and agree to this matter. Oh, then tell me, why didn't you kill your enemy yourself, but let us do it? Thor Ryu asked. If I'm not mistaken, the strength of the two of you shouldn't be low, right? Your five-element sect should have a lot of experts. Why do you want us to do it? Thor Ryu must figure this out. Is there something fishy about it? In fact, it's not a big reason. It's just that this person can die, but he can't die in the hands of our five-element sect. When Kong Ming Ming said until here, he lowered his voice and said, the plan of the heavenly law? Old Patriarch knows about it, right? Our five-element sect is now preparing for it. We don't want to complicate matters. Dying in the hands of the foreign people and dying in our hands will bring different results. Kong Xiaoming's words were tantamount to not saying anything. This reason was a bit too vague. However, when Thor Ryu heard that it was related to the Heaven Step Island project, he didn't ask anymore. In any case, killing a person in Paoli clan's territory wasn't a big deal. Although they might become enemies, Bubbly clan was not afraid of becoming enemies. Their strength was there. Moreover, even if they become enemies, Thor Ryu wanted to recover. What is the strength of that person? When will he come? Thor Ryu asked. That person's current strength is at the middle phase of Sky Class, but he has some ability. He can fight someone stronger than him. Old Master, you must be prepared. Kong Xiaoming said. As for killing a peak heaven rank late-stage expert, Kong Ming Ming Ming, he didn't say it. He was afraid that the clan wouldn't do it. After all, peak heaven realm peak late-stage expert wouldn't dare to say they could kill a peak stage expert. But Kong Ming Ming also reminded them that Lin Yi was very powerful and could fight enemies above his rank. When the time comes, the Bubbly clan would suffer a loss, but they couldn't blame Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming reminded them in advance, but they didn't take it to heart. Moreover, Kong Ming Ming was a bad person. He actually wanted Lin Yi to injure or kill a member of the Bubbly clan. Then, Lin Yi and the Bubbly clan would become mortal enemies. At that time, there would be no need for Kong Ming Ming to say anything. The Bubbly clan would do their best to keep Lin Yi here. Kong Ming Ming was a person who could scheme against anyone. Mid-heaven rank? Thor Ryu let out a sigh of relief when he heard Lin Yi's strength level. A person with such strength coming to the Paoli clan was basically a one-way trip. Thor Ryu didn't even think about it before agreeing, no problem. I can help you get rid of this person, but you have to honor the pill you promised me. It wasn't that Thor Ryu was arrogant. It was because no peak late-stage heaven rank great perfection expert would be afraid of Lin Yi's strength. Moreover, although the Bubbly clan had some understanding of the Central Plains cultivation world, they didn't know everything. Lin Yi had only appeared in the past year, and he had only appeared in the past few months. It was normal that the Bubbly clan didn't know about it. Rest assured, if the old patriarch really helps us get rid of this person, then as long as my second uncle successfully becomes a fourth-grade alchemist, he will be the first to refine a pill for your clan. Kong Ming Ming patted his chest and guaranteed. Of course, his underlying meaning was that if you don't get rid of Lin Yi, or if my second uncle doesn't successfully become a fourth-grade alchemist, then you can't blame us. Naturally, for Kong Ming Ming's underlying meaning, Thor Ryu could also hear it, but it was the latter. He didn't think that Kong Ming Ming would think that they couldn't get rid of a mid-heaven rank expert. This was clearly impossible. As for the latter, Thor Ryu also knew that everything had its risks. Shinjin Ancestor was now a third-grade alchemist, who could guarantee that he wouldn't become a fourth-grade alchemist in the future. It seems to be just an ethereal promise, but one must know that Shinjin Ancestor must be constantly working hard. Only he himself wants to become a fourth-grade alchemist, who doesn't want to improve their strength. So this matter is still very hopeful. Moreover, now Thor Ryu has no other hope. As long as there is a glimmer of hope, he doesn't want to give up. Not to mention that this hope is still very likely to be realized. Well, leave this matter to me. You give me this person's appearance, then Tortu. You take these two guests to rest and wait for the news. Thor Ryu said. Yes, father. Tortu responded. Kong Ming Ming readily agreed. Even if Thor Ryu didn't ask them to stay as guests, they would wait here and watch Lin Yi being killed, so naturally, they left with Tortu. At the same time, Kong Ming Ming also sent Lin Yi's photo to Tortu for his reference. Tordu glanced at it and didn't care much at all. After sending Kong Ming Ming and Little E to the guest room, he returned to the square hall. "Father, the two guests have been arranged to rest," Tordu said. "This time, can 5-element sect really help us refine elixirs?" "I don't know, but there is always hope." "It's good that there is hope. I didn't even have hope before." Thor Ryu looked very happy. "It's just, this time, for my own sake, I can't bear to kill an innocent person who came here to trade. Yes, I'm afraid that they came here to trade with us. Even if we don't trade with them, we can't just kill them." Tortu also had a gloomy expression. Their Pauli clan is not the kind of clan that likes to invade others. Chapter 33-38. This? Tordu hesitated after listening to him. "I don't think so, right? So what we are doing is just to help those wronged souls get justice." In fact, Tortu didn't know that the people who died under Lin Yi's hands were people who deserved to die. There were no wronged souls. "That's right, then leave this matter to me. I can still deal with a middle-stage Heaven Stage Master." Tortu volunteered. "Okay, you are on duty this month, so I will leave this person to you." "Have you got the photo?" Tortu asked. I got it." Tortu nodded and said, "I will also pay attention these days." In the guest room of the Bubbly clan, Little One looked at Kong Ming Ming and asked with some confusion, "Junior brother Kong, why don't you tell the people of the Bubbly clan that Lin Yi is very powerful? Even a great perfection master may not be his opponent. What if they fail?" "Hee. Fail? I'm not afraid of him failing. I'm afraid that he won't fail." Kong Ming Ming smiled and said, "Senior brother, I'm afraid you don't understand why I'm doing this, but think about it. If Lin Yi kills or cripples one of the people of the Bubbly clan, wouldn't they become mortal enemies? Why does our 5-element sect want to kill Lin Yi so much? Isn't it because our people have suffered heavy casualties in his hands?" "That's right." Little One patted his head and suddenly realized, "Junior brother Kong, I didn't expect you to be so resourceful. No wonder Master likes you and relies on you." "Haha, this is all a conspiracy. It's nothing." Kong Ming Ming waved his hand. He smiled and said indifferently, "No matter what, if we can kill Lin Yi this time, you and I will have done a great service, and we will also get justice for our juniors." Little One nodded. At this time, Lin Yi's car was slowly approaching the Hakanamada Desert. "Mr. Lin, the Hakanamada Desert is just up ahead. Should we go to the Baoli tribe first, or return to my home first?" Udake asked, although he was eager to return home, but he had to seek Lin Yi's opinion first. "Let's go to your house to have a look first. After all, we'll be looking for the Bubbly clan. As for your house, we can just go there directly," Lin Yi said. "Thank you, Mr. Lin." Udake was pleasantly surprised and quickly said. Since the route was decided, Lin Yi naturally closed his eyes to rest. He asked Udake to drive himself. In fact, Udake's home was not in the Hakanamada Desert, but at the edge. There was a small town at the edge of the desert, and the Yu family was a prominent family in this small town. However, this was something that happened more than 10 years ago. The residents here had long forgotten about the Yu family. After all, the Yu family was just a big family to outsiders. How would these ordinary people know about cultivators? So, when other families appeared, it was only natural that they replaced the Yu family's position in the secular world. "I haven't been here for more than 10 years. The town has really changed a lot." Udake saw that the town had begun to move towards modernization. Cars were also often seen, and he couldn't help but feel emotional. One had to know that when he was a child, the main means of transportation here were horses and camels. Yushauka also widened her eyes, curiously looking at the customs here. She was too young to remember anything, and she had no impression of this town at all. They came all the way to a manor where Udake's Yu family used to be. But what made Udake a little strange was that this manor looked very neat and tidy. It didn't look like a dilapidated manor that had been abandoned for more than 10 years. How was this possible? Although the Yu family used to give alms to the poor people in the town, and they also spontaneously helped the Yu family to clean the manor regularly when the Yu family was in ruins, it was definitely not as simple as cleaning. No one could clean it for more than 10 years. The Yu family was gone. So what was there to clean? Moreover, the deeper they went, the more they could see that this manor had been repaired. What are the three of you doing? This is private property. Trespassers will die. Just when Udake was feeling a little strange, a group of men in black suddenly rushed over and surrounded the three of them. In fact, when these people appeared, Linny had already sensed it, but he didn't understand the situation here, so he didn't make a move and plan to see what was going on. After all, in Lin Yi's eyes, these people were just small characters, and the leader was only a mystic class master. Who are you? What are you doing here? Udake was stunned. This was his home. Why was there a group of outsiders here? However, Lin Yi's golden finger could see the strength of this leader, but Udake didn't have a golden finger, so naturally, he couldn't see it. This is the Gu family's manor, and I am the chief guard here. The leader said proudly, looking at you. You're not from this town, right? Leave this place quickly, and I will let bygones be bygones, or else don't leave. Gu family? Udake had never heard of this Gu family, and he was stunned. You're talking big, aren't you? Gu family's territory? This is clearly my Yu family's manor. How did it become the Gu family's? What Yu family? Kid, I think you're here to cause trouble, right? The chief guard had never heard of the Yu family, so he instinctively thought that Udake was here to cause trouble. Cause trouble? Udake frowned. Who is the person in charge here? Ask him to come out and see me. This is clearly my family's place. How could it be forcefully occupied? Udake wasn't worried about the house now, but whether the secret room had been discovered or not. There were some ancient books of the Yu family hidden in it. Linny finally understood what was going on. Udake's house had been taken over by someone. Although Udake's house had been empty for more than 10 years, it was still unreasonable to say that it was directly occupied like this. Of course, Linny didn't force it. If the other party gave up this place after a negotiation, then Lin Yi couldn't do anything to them. Lin Yi was also reasonable. He wouldn't simply hurt people. I think you're here to cause trouble. You still want to see our old Master Gu? That's wishful thinking. The chief guard snorted disdainfully. Kid, don't tell me I didn't warn you. If you don't leave, I will kill you. Do you believe me? Do you know that in this town, our Gu family has the final say? Chapter 33-39. It was obvious that these people had taken advantage of his absence to forcibly occupy this ownerless land. Of course, Udake didn't blame them. As long as they were willing to give up and leave behind the things in their homes, Udake really didn't need to be calculative with them. But this person's attitude obviously made Udake very angry. You occupied someone else's place, and you're still in the right? Kill me? I really don't believe it. Udake said coldly. Although he wasn't much in the ancient world, in this mortal world, he didn't believe that anyone would dare to act like a tyrant over his head. Since you don't believe it, then I'll fulfill your wish. The head guard was also very annoyed. Since this person wanted to die, then let him die. As he said that, he grabbed towards Udake. The aura of a cultivator on his body was also revealed at this moment. Of course, he didn't use too much strength. After all, in his opinion, Udake was just a small character in the mortal world. Wouldn't he be turned into ashes with a wave of his hand? Mystic late phase peak master? I didn't expect you to be a cultivator. Udake was shocked. He thought that this place was occupied by some rich merchant in the mortal world, but he didn't expect that it was a cultivator. Could it be that these people had something to do with the annihilation of his family? Udake couldn't be blamed for thinking too much. In fact, in the mortal world, cultivators were very rare. Although Udake usually met cultivators, it was also because he stood on a different level. This was because a rich person would definitely have a lot of rich friends around him, and a beggar basically only knew beggars and vagrants. This was the problem of social circle. However, suddenly encountering a cultivator here made Udake vigilant. Oh, you know cultivators? The head guard's face changed. He didn't expect that the person who came could actually see through his strength, but he didn't think it was a big deal. In his opinion, his strength in the mortal world was quite amazing. He didn't stop, but instead increased the strength of his fist. Udake snorted coldly. He didn't dodge and directly punched towards the head guard's fist. He was a late-phase peak Earth-class cultivator. Although he was weaker than Lin Yi, he could still suppress the head guard. Boom! The two fists collided. Udake stood unscathed on the spot, while the head guard was sent flying backward, blood spurting out of his mouth. His entire body fell onto the wall of the manor's entrance, and he was in a daze. Udake did not want to kill him, nor did he use any martial techniques. However, the simple head-on collision had already caused the head guard to suffer extremely serious internal injuries, but he wouldn't die. You're an Earth-class late-phase peak? What are you doing here? You actually dared to injure me. Although the head guard was questioning Udake, his voice was clearly a little fierce. Me what? I'll spare your dog life. Go in and inform the people who can speak to me. Udake snorted coldly. Obviously, he was already very angry. If it was anyone else who had their home forcefully occupied and was unreasonable, they wouldn't feel comfortable either. Just you wait. Just you wait. The head guard was the strongest among the guards. Now that he was beaten up, the others naturally didn't dare to step forward. At this time, they all came over and helped the head guard up. They walked into the manor. In the manor's castle, Old Man Gu was having his breakfast. Under normal circumstances, no one would disturb him when he was eating, not even his descendants and disciples. But at this time, the head guard was quickly hobbling into the dining hall with the help of the younger guards. Who is it? Don't you know that I don't like to be disturbed when I'm eating? Old Man Gu heard the footsteps at the door and immediately shouted in annoyance. Old Man Gu, it's not good. Someone came looking for trouble and beat me up like this. Old Man Gu, I'm your disciple. You have to avenge me. The head guard still didn't know that there was no hope for him. He still wanted to get back at Old Man Gu. What? Old Man Gu was shocked when he saw the head guard's pitiful state. He stood up abruptly and asked, Who beat you up like this? You're a mystic late-phase peak master. Could it be that this person is stronger than you? Yes, it's an Earth-class late-phase peak master. I'm definitely not his match, so only you can do it yourself, Old Man Gu. The head guard said sorrowfully, You stay here and inform the rest of our people. I'll go take a look myself. I don't believe that there's still someone who dares to cause trouble in my Gu family's manor. Do they want to die? Old Man Gu slammed the table and said angrily, Yes, Old Man Gu. The head guard quickly replied. After Old Man Gu left, he quickly sent the other guards to inform the rest of the Gu family to support them. As for himself, he went out with the help of another guard. He wanted to see with his own eyes how Udake would be taught a lesson. Old Master Gu took the lead and rushed out of the manor. When he saw Udake and the other two standing at the entrance of the manor, his eyes were about to spit fire. They actually dared to behave atrociously in front of the Gu family's door. Were they tired of living? Who injured my Gu family's disciple just now? Come out and tell me the reason, and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll make sure you die a slow death. Old Man Gu roared. After saying that, Old Man Gu revealed his domineering strength as a late-stage heaven mage. His strength was his greatest reliance. After all, let alone the secular world, this kind of strength would make him an extremely powerful existence even in an ancient sect. Old Man Gu's strength made Udake a little timid. He subconsciously took 2 steps back, but Lin Yi patted his shoulder to calm him down. With Lin Yi's encouragement, Udake felt more confident. He took a deep breath and said, I'm Udake. This is the place where the Yu family has lived for generations. Who are you people? You took my family by force and wanted to kill me. If I didn't have some strength, would I be dead now? You family? Old Man Gu paused, then seemed to remember something. You're from the Yu family? Wasn't your family exterminated back then? Could it be that there were fish that escaped the net? Looking at your age, you should be a descendant of the Yu family? Chapter 3340. Haha. Since you're here today, you won't be able to leave. I'm not afraid to tell you that your Yu family was destroyed by my master back then. Old Gu didn't hide it and laughed coldly. Since you're a survivor, then die. Udake wanted to ask more questions, but he saw Old Master Gu's fist flying towards him. Linny frowned slightly. He wanted to wait for Udake to say a few more words before killing this old Gu, but he didn't expect that this person would attack right away. It made Linny feel helpless, but Linny was also decisive. He used the 11th form of the Frenzy 8 Trigram's palm and slapped it at Old Gu from the side. Old Gu's attention was on Udake, and he didn't pay attention to Lin Yi and Yushauka. He thought that they were Udake's friends. From his perspective, these two wouldn't be very powerful. After all, if they were Udake's friends, they would be very arrogant. It wouldn't be two youngsters. Old Gu's heart was pounding. Moreover, this Udake obviously didn't know that he and his master were his enemies. He only found out about it from Old Gu's mouth after coming here, so it was obvious that he wasn't here for revenge. Hence, Old Gu didn't care about Lin Yi at all. This caused Lin Yi's sudden attack to catch him off guard. Old Gu didn't even get a chance to hit Udake before Lin Yi sent him flying with a single move. Old Gu was about to hit someone, so why would he use Chi to protect himself? As for Lin Yi, the 11th form of the Frenzy 8 Trigram's palm had a 50-50 chance of killing a peak late phase Sky Class Master, but it was easy for him to kill a late phase Sky Class Master. Even without the Jade's buff, he still managed to kill Elder Gu in one hit. At the same time, when Lin Yi sent Old Master Gu flying, the members of the Gu family walked out of the manor. They were there to cheer, but the scene in front of them left them dumbfounded. Old Master Gu, who they thought was superior and powerful, was sent flying while vomiting blood. However, none of them dared to act rashly. They knew that they couldn't afford to offend someone who could beat up Old Master Gu to such a state. You. The head guard originally wanted to see Old Master Gu fight for him, but he didn't expect to see Old Master Gu repeat the same mistake and fly out with blood spurting out of his mouth, just like he did just now. However, Old Master Gu was even more miserable than him. After he was sent flying, he twitched twice and stopped moving. It was obvious that he was dead. Father. Two men who looked similar to Old Master Gu ran over to his corpse and wailed mournfully. Who is your father's master? Who destroyed the Yu family back then? Were you involved? Linny looked at the two men and asked. We don't know. The two men were obviously cowards, or rather, they were frightened by Lin Yi and didn't dare to resist Lin Yi. How could our family be involved? My father just found a great backer from the Chinese plains. We're just here as their eyes. As for our master's identity, we don't know. Don't kill us, great swordsman. I'm sorry, this is your place. We'll move now, just don't kill us. It seemed that the two sons of Old Master Gu were cowards. They had been scared silly by Lin Yi. They spilled out everything they knew, not daring to hide anything. Oh, do you know the name of your master? Asked Lin Yi with a frown. We don't know this. Our master didn't tell me. Sun Gu said with a bitter face. Our Gu family was just a small family back then. Maybe young master Yu doesn't have an impression. When the master destroyed the Yu family, our family just happened to move here. My father was more clever and got close to them, so he became their eyes. He received some cultivation resources regularly. As for who they were, we didn't dare to ask. Is that so? Is there no clue at all? Linny frowned and asked, how did you contact them? They contacted us on their own initiative. We don't have their contact information, and the cultivation resources were mailed, said Sun Gu. What you said is nonsense. It's not enough to save your lives. Linny knew that if he didn't intimidate these people, they wouldn't be able to say anything useful without pressure. Don't. There is one more important thing. Sun Gu threw caution to the wind at this time. Although the other party asked them to keep this matter a secret, they couldn't keep it a secret anymore. Anyway, they would leave this place after they finished talking. It was impossible to cross paths with those people again. It was more important to save their lives. Say it, Lin Yi said coldly. It's like this. Master sent 2 messengers a few days ago. They rested with us for a night and left. Sun Gu said, we don't know their names. My father received these 2 people personally. We didn't even get to talk to them. We don't even know what they look like. However, what we know is that they asked my father about the location of the Bubbly clan. If I'm not mistaken, they should have gone to the Bubbly clan. If you can find these 2 people, then there might be clues. In the beginning, These two people threatened the Gu family. They couldn't say their whereabouts and things that happened. Otherwise, they would destroy the Gu family. However, even if they didn't say it now, they would still destroy the Gu family. It was better to say it first. At least, they could delay their death. Therefore, he spat out everything. Oh, two people came? They went to the Bubbly clan? Even if Linny was a very calm person, a wisp of surprise and disbelief couldn't help but flash on his face at this moment. He didn't expect that it would be such a coincidence. However, what relationship did these two people have with the Bubbly clan? Was it because they had a close relationship, or? This made Lin Yi's mind a little messed up. He was going to trade with the Bubbly clan this time, and to put it bluntly, he was asking for their help. But now, two more enemies of Udake had appeared. Chapter 33:41. Yes, but we don't know what they are going to do. Our family is only a marginal servant. We just happen to get close to them. So, don't make things difficult for us. My father is the mastermind. He is already dead. We juniors don't know anything. Gu's son begged with a sullen face. Oh, leave behind the map of the Throwingly clan and then scram. You are not allowed to take anything from here. Linny waved his hand and said, Yes, we won't take it, just take our lives. Gu's son promptly replied, I have the coordinates of the Bubbly clan. You only need to input it into the navigator. When these people saw that Old Man Gu was already dead, they naturally did not have any backbone to resist. One by one, they fled the place in a panic. The originally bustling manor suddenly became empty. After watching these people leave, Linny turned to Udake and said, You don't blame me for letting these people go without permission, right? Many of these people are small characters. There is no point in killing them. No, what happened back then has nothing to do with them. These people are just lackeys who curry favor with those in power. Old Man Gu's death can be considered to have vented the anger of them, forcibly occupying the ancestral house. Udake shook his head. Moreover, I still have to thank Mr. Lin for today's matter. If not for you, I'm afraid the one lying on the ground would have been me. But it seems that the rumors are true. Mr. Lin can instantly kill a peak heaven rank late-stage expert. Haha. Linny smiled and didn't say much. He only said, Find what you need, then we'll go to the Bubbly clan. If we can meet those two, we might be able to take revenge in passing. Otherwise, if we go too late and they leave, we won't have any clues. Udake was surprised and happy. Lin Yi's words proved that Lin Yi would take care of this matter. If Lin Yi intervened, then it shouldn't be difficult to solve this matter. After all, Lin Yi had killed a heaven rank late-stage expert. What kind of strength was that? Therefore, Udake quickly thanked him. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Looking at her brother's expression, Xiaoka frowned but didn't say anything. Why was Lin Yi trying to please her family? Xiaoka felt uneasy. She was thinking too much. Lin Yi had helped a lot of people, and sometimes he didn't have a goal in mind. But Xiaoka's first impression, she thought that he was trying to please her. But even so, Xiaoka was helpless. Lin Yi was getting stronger and stronger, and she could only rely on Lin Yi for revenge. However, now that he had gotten his revenge, how would he choose? Xiaoka's headache was getting worse. Udake led the way. He didn't even glance at some of the antiques and paintings in the castle. These things were priceless in the eyes of the secular world, but for cultivators, these were dispensable things. What they cared about were cultivation resources and their own strength. Under Udake's lead, the three came to the basement of the castle. After going down, they realized that the basement was filled with junk. It was a mess of useless things. This used to be House Yu's warehouse, and after House Gu took over, they used it as a warehouse and didn't use it. So Udake saw this situation and let out a sigh of relief. Udake came to a corner of the warehouse. On the wall, there was a tattered painting. After seeing the painting, Udake's face became serious. He walked forward and carefully took the painting down. Behind the painting, there was a password-like mechanism. There was a group of strange characters on it, and each character could be pressed. It seemed that they had to be pressed in order to unlock the mechanism. This was an inconspicuous corner, and it was in the warehouse. It seemed that no one from House Gu studied this place carefully. They probably didn't even bother to touch these tattered paintings. Udake carefully pressed a set of password code. The password code was very long, and no one knew how Udake remembered it. One had to know that he was only a few years old when the accident happened, but maybe he got some kind of log or something. Rumble. After the password code was correct, the mechanism began to activate. The originally flat ground suddenly began to sink. It turned out that this was an elevator, just like the stone coffin in the ancient tomb. The three of them followed the ground and landed on the next floor of the basement. It turned out that there was a hidden space beneath the basement. It seems like Housegoo didn't discover this place. Udake looked at the things in front of him happily. On the first floor, there was a large storeroom. It was like a supermarket, with rows of shelves. Perhaps the cultivation resources and books of the Yu family were placed on top of them. Udake came to the innermost bookshelf with ease. He stretched out his hand and took out a thin booklet. He smiled and said, "Xiaoku, it's done. It's here." Oh, Xiaoka was happy. After all, she was looking forward to increasing her strength. After all, she was weak and had been in danger many times. If it wasn't for the male thief's help, she wouldn't be standing here alive. Nuwa's heaven patching art? Xiaoka was shocked by the name of the art. This name was quite strong, and it sounded very domineering. She didn't know if it was just a bluff or if it was real. Yes, this is the secret art of Houseu, but only girls can practice it. I can't, Udake said. Then, I can practice it? Xiaoka opened the manual expectantly, but she was a physical practitioner and had never come into contact with spiritual practitioners before. Her family and sect didn't teach her anything about spiritual practitioners either, so she didn't know where to start. But, I don't know anything about spiritual practitioners, Linny said with a smile. I don't know anything about spiritual practitioners. It's actually not that hard, Dake said as he told Xiaoka about the spiritual practitioner's training method. So troublesome. Xiaoka felt a headache coming on. She couldn't sleep at night. She had to meditate. Wasn't it tiring? It'd be great if Linny could level up his strength. Chapter 3342. She could pretend that the donation to the orphanage wasn't a big deal, but if Linny were to help her level up, then it wouldn't be a business matter anymore. Xiaoka would owe him a huge favor. However, everything is difficult at the beginning. If you want to smoothly step onto the path of the inner sex cultivation, this mantra must be cultivated at home. This is the ancestral teaching, so Xiaoku, you should start cultivating in a while. Udake instructed. Okay. Xiaoka nodded and flipped through the incantation, but as time went on, Xiaoka's eyebrows furrowed. Brother, this mental cultivation method doesn't seem to be a mental cultivation method that can be used in battle. Why does it look like a defensive mental cultivation method? Defense type? What do you mean? Xiaoku, you know that I'm a man. It's impossible for me to practice this mantra. When I left home, I was young. Naturally, I didn't hear my elders talk about this, so I don't understand it. What do you mean by defensive type? Udake asked. It says here that the Nuwa Sky Mending mantra is actually a mantra that can defend against attacks. For example, when I was at the Golden class, I could defend against the attacks of Golden class masters. Of course, the duration of the defense also has a lot to do with my own strength. Xiaoka explained, for example, if I'm at the early phase of the Golden class, I can block a full-powered attack from a master at the late phase peak, but the number of times I can block it and the amount of time I can block it is quite limited. But if I'm at the late phase peak, I can be immune for a long time. Oh, what kind of technique is this? It doesn't seem like much. You just stand there and defend. It's better to run away. Udake was stunned when he heard that. If this mental cultivation method was really like that, although it sounded very powerful, it was actually just a defensive mental cultivation method. One couldn't attack and could only stand there and take hits. What was the point of that? It's not like that. For example, if the three of us were together, I could defend together. Xiaoka shook her head. He said, this mantra should be a support type. Oh, it can help others defend? Linny was shocked. If that was the case, then it would truly be a heaven-defying mantra. No wonder it was a family heirloom. Although it didn't sound like much, Lin knew how awesome this mantra was. For example, although Lin could instantly kill a peak late-stage heaven-rank powerhouse, that was when he caught them off guard. If the two of them fought together, the one to die would be Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi's strength was there for all to see. But with Xiaoka's technique, everything was different. Xiaoka immediately used a defense. Others couldn't beat him, Lin Yi, but Lin Yi could beat others. Didn't that mean that whoever he beat would die? Yes, if it's a team battle, it should be very useful. Xiaoka evidently saw the benefits of this technique. However, if it was to travel the world alone, then it wouldn't be of much use. Xiaoku, go ahead and cultivate. Level up to Sky class as soon as possible, then you can be my helper. Lin Yi was excited just thinking about it. All along, Lin Yi's own strength was Lin Yi's weakness. If he had Xiaoka's help, he could make up for it. Who wants to be your helper? Xiaoka scoffed and ignored Lin Yi. She took the mantra and went to find a place to cultivate. Dake looked at Lin Yi apologetically and shrugged. Mr. Lin, I'll talk to Xiaoku and ask her to help you in the future. Let's talk about it later. Lin Yi smiled indifferently. Xiaoka wanted to help him, but she had to become a Sky class master first. It wasn't possible at the moment. Yu Xiaoka was a smart girl. Although she had just started practicing spiritual qi, with the help of Yu Dake's method, Yu Xiaoka was able to cultivate qi easily. Although there was still a long way to go before she could reach the golden class, at least she had stepped onto the path of spiritual qi cultivation. Brother, I've already cultivated true qi. Can we go now? Although Xiaoka was angry at Lin Yi on the surface, she knew that Lin Yi was here for official business. She didn't want to waste Lin Yi's time. And it's fine. Yu Dake was a little surprised. He didn't expect Xiaoka to be this talented in the path of cultivation. One had to know that when he first started cultivating, it took him more than half a month to cultivate qi. That was considered fast, but Xiaoka was even faster. On the other hand, Lin Yi was also surprised by Xiaoka's speed. Although Lin Yi was seen as a cultivation genius in the outside world, Lin Yi knew that if he didn't have the jade space, he wouldn't be able to improve so fast. Xiaoka, I have something to tell you. In the car, Lin Yi suddenly said. What is it? Xiaoka asked. You should know about the Dean, right? If you agree, I can raise your strength to Earth class late phase peak, just like your brother. Lin Yi said. This way, you won't have to train too hard. And? Xiaoka was a little moved by his words, but she was suspicious of his motives. You must be hiding evil intentions. What are you trying to do? Lin Yi smiled. What are you trying to do? What do you want? You're the thief. Okay? The Flying Sparrow sect's Flying Sparrow? Lin Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly. Flying Sparrow? Xiaoka paused and looked at him strangely. How do you know I'm the Flying Sparrow? To be honest, Xiaoka was very curious. Flying Sparrow was just an alias she used when she went on missions. She never told Lin Yi about it. Even her brother Yu Dake didn't know. How did Lin Yi know? Did the Dean tell him? The Dean was the only one who knew about this. But why was he telling Lin Yi this? Don't change the topic. I'm just asking for your opinion. If you don't want to, then forget it. Lin Yi said faintly. Lin Yi looked very calm on the surface, but Lin Yi was smiling bitterly on the inside. He accidentally said the wrong thing again. Xiaoka wanted to say no, but did she really want to? She wanted to reach the heavens in one step. Which practitioner didn't want to get stronger? But she couldn't just say yes. Chapter 33:43. This way of leveling up had its drawbacks, so Lin Yi had to remind Xiaoka. This way of leveling up has its drawbacks as well. After I help you level up, the energy in the world will no longer be effective for your training. If you want to level up again, you'll have to rely on me or pills like the Qi Gathering pill. Xiaoka didn't think that there would be side effects. She really needed to think about it carefully. The first time Yu Dake went to the Bubbly clan, he was just a blind man groping an elephant. He had no destination, so he failed. But this time was different. With the detailed coordinates given by Gu's son, he just needed to drive the car there. There was no need to take any detours. And so, it only took a day for Lin Yi to get close to the Palphus. The castle in the desert was already in sight. I didn't think that we would find this place so easily, Udake said with a sigh. Be more vigilant. After all, they are outsiders. We need to be careful. Linny said to Udake. I understand. Udake nodded. The car slowly drove towards the castle. When the car was approaching, a man with sharp ears and triangular eyes wearing a totem suddenly appeared in front of the jeep, blocking the way of Udake and the others. This man was Tortu. He had been waiting here for the past few days, waiting for Lin Yi's arrival so that he could take care of Lin Yi. Stop the car. What are you doing? Tortu scolded. Udake quickly stopped the car and looked at the man in front of the car strangely. This was because the man's appearance was too different from ordinary people. Udake was shocked. You are a friend of the Bubbly clan, right? We come from the Central Plains 5 Elements sect. My master is the current head of the 5 Elements sect, Elder Shintian. Boss Bai, we are here to do business with the nobles. Linny said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. These words were suggested by Boss Bai before. After all, the Bubbly clan and the 5 Elements sect had a relationship, so Lin Yi directly revealed his identity. The purpose was to make the other party have a good impression, and then continue to talk about cooperation. However, Lin Yi's words stunned Tortu. He looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. He didn't expect that Lin Yi was also a member of the 5 Elements sect. Moreover, Lin Yi was the disciple of Boss Bai of the 5 Elements sect. The 5 Elements sect had split into 2 factions. One faction was led by Ancestor Mysterious Heaven, while the other was led by Ancestor Shinshin. No wonder Kong Ming wanted to kill Lin Yi and said that he couldn't do it himself. It turned out that they were from the same sect. Thinking of this, Tortu felt a headache. After all, the Bubbly clan had a good relationship with the 5 Elements sect. It was true that Kong Ming was from the 5 Elements sect, but Lin Yi in front of him was also from the 5 Elements sect. To kill Lin Yi for Kong Ming was obviously to get involved in the internal conflict of the 5 Elements sect. But Tortu thought of Kong Ming's promise before, and then remembered that Ancestor Mysterious Heaven had been abolished. Tortu also made a decision. As far as I've heard, Ancestor Mysterious Heaven has been abolished? Why is he still the sect leader? Tortu asked calmly. Lin Yi was stunned. He didn't expect Tortu to know that Boss Bai had been abolished. This made Lin Yi frown slightly, but he still said, Yes, but my master is still the sect leader. Oh, is that so? Then you can go to hell. Tortu launched an attack without any warning. He threw a punch at Lin Yi, who was in the car. Udake was also startled by this sudden attack. However, he subconsciously stepped on the accelerator. The car had not yet turned off, so the Jeep Cherokee suddenly rushed out. But even so, Lin Yi was still hit by Tortu's fist wind, and his shoulder was hit. However, the previous part of the attack was Lin Yi's head. If it weren't for Udake's prompt decision, Lin Yi would have been seriously injured at this moment. He wouldn't die, because Lin Yi also used True Qi to protect his body, and he also had the defense bonus of the Essence Qi necklace, so he didn't worry about being killed. But the key was how to deal with the seriously injured Lin Yi. Lin Yi suddenly opened the door and jumped out of the car. Taking advantage of Tortu's shock, he ran the mantra, and suddenly urged the 11th style of the Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm. Previously, when attacking Old Master Gu, Lin Yi's 11th style of the Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm didn't have the attack bonus of the Essence Qi necklace, so this time, the 11th style of the Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm was naturally more powerful. Boom! Tortu was directly hit by Lin Yi's attack and flew out. In fact, Tortu was very confident in his strength, and he felt that he could definitely kill Lin Yi with one punch. If a master at the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage couldn't kill a master at the middle stage of Heaven stage with one punch, then there was no need to live. Of course, common sense was like this, but Lin Yi couldn't be judged by common sense. Tortu naturally didn't think that Lin Yi had the defense bonus of the Essence Qi necklace and the quick healing of the 3rd level of the Art of Dragon Mastery. He also didn't think that Udake would suddenly drive, and the short moment of shock also caused irreparable damage. Caught off guard, Tortu was hit by Lin Yi. Although it didn't kill Tortu, Tortu's meridians were broken, and he suffered very serious internal injuries. Tortu's eyes flashed with incredible shock and resentment. He didn't expect to go for wool and come home shorn. He wanted to please Kong Ming Ming by killing Lin Yi in exchange for a chance for his father to recover. But he didn't expect that not only was Lin Yi not killed, but he was also crippled by Lin Yi, becoming a useless person like his father. This was not worth it. If Lin Yi ran away at this time, then Tortu would really suffer a double loss. He wouldn't get any benefits at all. Without leaving Lin Yi, Tortu didn't believe that Kong Ming Ming would keep his promise. Therefore, Tortu had no choice but to activate the Bubbly clan's mechanism to resist the invasion of foreign enemies. An ancient clan might have some means of retreat left behind to resist the invasion of foreign enemies, and the Paoli clan happened to be in this situation. In front of the Paoli clan city gate, there was a trap mechanism. As long as it was activated, the people above the trap would instantly fall into the trap. Chapter 33-44. Lin Yi didn't understand why the Bubbly clan attacked him right away. Was there a problem? Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't want to become enemies with the Bubbly clan for Xin Yan's sake. So he only injured the Bubbly clan member in front of him and didn't pursue and kill him. He wanted to leave some leeway. After all, even if this person was crippled, even if he was lying on the bed in a vegetative state, Lin Yi could use the art of dragon mastery to heal him. But if he died, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to save him. So Lin Yi wanted to leave this place first and think of a way to negotiate with the Bubbly clan. After all, this wasn't the time to negotiate. If the others from the Bubbly clan came out and saw that Lin Yi injured their clansman, they'd definitely gang up on him. At that time, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to explain even if he wanted to. It was better to wait for both sides to calm down first. But what Lin Yi didn't expect was that as soon as he got in the car, he heard a loud rumble. The ground suddenly split open, and their car rolled down the crack. At this time, Lin Yi wanted to take measures and fly out of the car. After all, Lin Yi was a sky class master. But if Lin Yi ran, what would happen to Xiaoke and Udake? The two of them couldn't escape, so Lin Yi sat in the car and planned to see what would happen next with them. The cracks opened quickly and closed quickly as well. The car hadn't even reached the bottom when the cracks closed again, and the space below them became dark all of a sudden. Xiaoke screamed in fright, subconsciously grabbing onto the seatbelt. Udake was more courageous, but his expression was very solemn. He didn't know what they would encounter next, and he didn't know what they would face next. On the other hand, Lin Yi was as calm as ever. He had already closed his eyes and used the Jade's sensing ability to check the bottom of the crack. There wasn't anything dangerous at the bottom of the crack, only a pool. If the car fell into the pool, they wouldn't be in too much danger. Perhaps the purpose of this mechanism wasn't to kill them, but to imprison them. As long as these people were imprisoned here, wouldn't they be at the mercy of the Bubbly clan? Lin Yi was probably right. There were cliffs all around the fissure, just like the ones in the Five Fiends mountain range. There was no foothold at all, and even a sky-class late-phase peak complete master wouldn't be able to climb up from this height. Besides, so what if they went up? The crack above had already closed. Even if they could jump that high, they wouldn't be able to break out of the ground, right? Even if you had the strength of a peak late-stage sky-class master, and the martial technique of a peak late-stage sky-class master was very powerful, but you'd already used the chant to jump so high into the air. After jumping up, you wouldn't have enough time to activate the technique, not to mention that the technique wouldn't be able to penetrate such a thick ground. Don't worry, there's a pool down there. We won't die, Lin Yi said lightly. How did you know? Xiaoke was startled. I saw it, Lin Yi said. Saw it? That's impossible, right? I saw it too, but I couldn't see the bottom. How did you see it? Xiaoke didn't really believe it. Haha. Lin Yi smiled and didn't explain. After all, this kind of thing was hard to explain, so he might as well pretend to be mysterious. However, following Lin Yi's laughter, a plop sound was heard, and the car fell into the pool. This proved Lin Yi's words. Xiaoke and Udake were a little shocked. They didn't think that Lin Yi would have such an accurate judgment in this kind of situation. It was too amazing. Let's go. Lin Yi opened the door and jumped down. To be honest, Lin Yi could walk in the dark like it was flat ground, but Udake and Xiaoke couldn't. Udake quickly turned on the headlights and climbed down with Xiaoka. The pool wasn't too deep, and the car slowly sank to the bottom. However, the light from the headlights was still very clear. This car was specially modified by Feng Tianlong's secret investigation department, so even if it was flooded, the electrical system wouldn't be damaged for a while, so the headlights were still on. Phew. Mr. Lin, you're really amazing. You were able to determine the terrain so quickly. We're here. What should we do? Udake felt that following Lin Yi gave him confidence. Even if they fell into the abyss, he wasn't too worried. This place is so big. Let's walk around? I don't know yet. Look over there. Lin Yi pointed at a sign not far away. The headlights shone on the sign. Udake and Xiaoka raised their heads subconsciously and were shocked. There was a warning written on the sign in many languages. Danger ahead. There is only one way out. Don't wander around, or else you'll have to bear the consequences. Near the sign, there were 5 paths. They didn't know which one was right and which one was wrong. Ugh. Udake was speechless. He didn't expect this place to be so complicated. There were actually other hidden paths. Xiaoka was shocked as well, but she was a thief after all. She was very calm. If I'm not wrong, there's one path that leads to the Paoli clan's castle. It's their own path, and the others are all dead ends. We're trapped here, and we can either die or wait for them to send people over. This is quite similar to some ancient tombs. Then, should we wait here? Udake heard Xiaoka's words and asked uncertainly, I think that the Paoli clan wants to kill us. That's not right. Could it be that House Gu told them to wait here and kill us? Lin Yi was also very curious. Why did the Paoli clan want to kill them right away? They didn't even meet each other before, and they didn't have any grudges against each other. Why would they want to kill them? Chapter 33:45. Then, Lin Yi really couldn't think of the rest of the reasons. I don't know for now, let's go forward and take a look. Staying here isn't a good idea, Lin Yi said as he walked towards the sign. Oh, okay. Udake didn't know why, but he trusted Lin Yi a lot. So when Lin Yi left, he didn't think much and followed. Xiaoka, on the other hand, panicked when she saw Lin Yi walking forward. Lin Yi, what are you doing? If you want to die, don't drag us down with you. There's only one path in here, and even the people from the Flying Sparrow sect can't say which is the right one. Don't go around randomly. Some of the secret paths in the tomb were dangerous, but most of them had a pattern to them, and there was no pattern to them at all. The Paoli family built this place themselves, and there were no patterns at all. All 5 paths were the same, and there were no signs or signs. Like this, Xiaoka couldn't tell which one was the right one at all. That means your skill level is too low? Lin Yi said faintly, I told you before, don't try to show off with your mediocre skills. If it weren't for your brother, I wouldn't have brought you to this dangerous place. HM? Xiaoka paused and frowned. Lin Yi's words gave her a strange feeling. This dark place was very similar to the tomb, and Xiaoka had a feeling that the person talking in front of her wasn't Lin Yi, but the male thief. She didn't know why she had this feeling, but at that moment, Lin Yi's voice and the way Lin Yi spoke made her think of the male thief. But when Xiaoka wanted to calm down and think about it, Lin Yi had already chosen a path, and she didn't have time to think. Seeing that her brother had already gone in, Xiaoka had no choice but to bite her teeth and follow. In fact, Udake was really thinking too much. At this time, Gu's son had already led the Gu family to escape to the remote mountainous area. Although they wanted to take revenge in their hearts, they also knew that with their strength, it was impossible to take revenge. However, halfway there, Gu's son's phone suddenly rang. He had a satellite phone, so he didn't have to worry about the signal. After hesitating for a moment, Gu's son picked up the phone. He didn't know who was calling. Hello, I'm Gu Zixian. Little Gu, it's me. The voice of the Xinshan ancestor sounded. So, the Xinshan ancestor was the master of House Gu. Master, hello? Gu Zixian jumped and wanted to hang up, but he didn't dare. My 2 people went to your place, right? Take good care of them. When they come back, they will go to your place again, said the Xinshan ancestor. When Gu Zixian heard that Kong Mingming and the others would go to his place when they came back, he didn't know what to say. He was already on the run. Why would he go and live there? What's wrong? Did something happen? How shrewd was the Xinshan ancestor? Hearing Gu Zixian's hesitation, he immediately felt that something was wrong. Gu Zixian was a coward to begin with. After being scared by the Xinshan ancestor's stern voice, he almost peed his pants. After many years of accumulated power, he couldn't care about anything else. He told the Xinshan ancestor what happened, and then said, "Master, you have to avenge our Gu family. Our Gu family has been at your beck and call for so many years. Now that my father was killed, you can't just ignore it. Do you think you can send someone over?" At this point, Gu Zixian couldn't care less. He thought that if the Xinshan ancestor could help him take revenge, that would be the best. What? When Patriarch Xinshan heard that, he realized that the person driving the Jeep Cherokee with the person surnamed Yu was Lin Yi. When he heard up to here, Ancestor Dark Earth couldn't help but be angered to the point of wanting to curse. Damn it! If I could kill Lin Yi, I would have died a long time ago. Would there be a need for the Bubbly clan to make a move against me? Thinking of this, Patriarch Xinshan said angrily, "If you can't take revenge, run. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up." With that, Patriarch Xinshan hung up the phone and ignored Sun Gu. In his eyes, he was just an abandoned chess piece. Who cared if they lived or died? "Hello? Master? Hello? Moses? Moses?" Gu's son held the phone, his face full of despair. Tortu was seriously injured, but he was still a peak late-stage heaven rank master, so he wouldn't lose the ability to move. Although he was in a bad mood, he still forced himself to enter the castle and arrived in front of his father, Thor Ryu. "Tortu, what happened to you? Are you injured?" Thor Ryu was shocked when he saw Tortu's appearance and quickly asked, "Father, I'm crippled. Just like you." Tortu had already checked his meridians before. He knew that he had become a cripple like his father. What's going on? What the hell happened? Thor Ryu was shocked. He suddenly stood up and asked, "It's that person called Lin Yi. I didn't expect him to be a middle-stage heaven rank master. Not only could he dodge my attack, but he could also counterattack and seriously injure me." Tortu was very depressed. He tried to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. What? That Lin Yi is so powerful? Thor Ryu's face was very gloomy after hearing this. He looked at Kong Ming Ming and Little Yi angrily. Kong Ming Ming wasn't worried about Tortu's life or death. He was worried about whether Lin Yi was dead or not. So he sighed and said, "I've said it before. This person can fight above his rank. His strength is very great. What about you? You only sent one person to kill him? Who can you blame?" Thor Ri and you heard Kong Xiaoming's words and paused for a moment. They were speechless. Yes, Kong Xiaoming had said it before. This person could fight above his level, and he told them to be careful. "It's not that I didn't tell you. It's that you didn't care at all." Tortu, what the hell is going on? Is there some hidden story behind this? Thor Ryu asked in a deep voice after entering the door. He was in a very bad mood at the moment. His injury hasn't healed yet. Instead, Tortu became crippled. This is really an unlucky year. "Father, this matter. We really shouldn't be involved." Tortu sighed helplessly and said, "Do you know who Kong Ming Ming wants to kill?" Chapter 3346. Five Element Sect's Old Ancestor Profound Heaven's Disciple. Tortu said and told Thor Moon about what happened before. "Bastard. This Kong Xiaoming actually dared to play us like this. He even implicated our Paoli clan in the grievances of their sects." Thor Ryu roared in anger. "Father, this matter really can't be blamed on Kong Ming Ming. Although he is hateful, we agreed to it. It's a deal. If we don't want to, how can Kong Xiaoming order us around?" Tortu shook his head and said with a bitter smile, "Now, we have no way out. We can only go all the way. If we cancel this deal now, not only will I be injured for nothing, but you will also have no hope of recovering from your injuries. But, using your injuries to exchange for a top-grade great returning pill, this business." Thor Ryu's expression was very ugly. No matter how he looked at it, this business was not worthwhile. What can we do? Tortu also has no other way. Who would have thought that the disciple of profound heaven's old ancestor is so strong that he can fight against an enemy of a higher rank? No, it's too much of a loss. It's too much of a loss. I have to talk to Kong Ming Ming about this matter. Thor Moon has already made a decision in his heart. Father, you mean? Tortu's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly asked. Kong Ming Ming played us. He didn't tell us the secret behind this. Don't think that it's so easy. Thor Moon stood up and strode out of Tortu's room and went straight to the guest room where Kong Ming Ming was resting. Kong Ming Ming and Little One returned to the room. He was excited about his success in angering the Bubbly clan and making them become enemies with Lin Yi. He didn't expect that Thor Moon would come to his door. Old Patriarch, why are you here again? Kong Ming Ming heard a knock on the door. He opened the door and was stunned. Kong Ming Ming, you were playing a good trick. As soon as Thor Ryu entered the room, he sneered and said, You are toying with our Bubbly clan. This, old master, what do you mean? Kong Xiaoming's heart skipped a beat. Did this old thing know something? That Lin Yi is clearly Patriarch Profound Heaven's disciple, and also a member of your Five Elements sect. This is a conflict between your Five Elements sect, so why didn't you say anything? Do you want to kill me with a borrowed knife? Thor Moon sneered. So it's about this matter. When Kong Ming Ming heard this, he felt relieved. He smiled indifferently and said, Old master, you are right. I just want to kill with a borrowed knife. What do you mean? Thor Ryu's eyes flashed with flames as he said angrily. I don't mean anything. Didn't we come to an agreement before? This is just a deal. It's not convenient for me to take action, so I want you to help me get rid of this person. This is killing with a borrowed knife, so there's no problem. Kong Ming Ming said matter-of-factly. Of course, as for why I didn't tell you, I don't think I need to tell you, right? This is an internal conflict of our sect. Besides, Patriarch Profound Heaven has stepped down, and my master, Patriarch Profound Earth, has taken over the Five Elements sect. I also told you about this matter, but you didn't ask about it in detail. My purpose is very simple. I want to kill Lin Yi. Don't worry about who Lin Yi is. Kill him, and I will give you a top-grade 4th-grade Great Restore pill. Thor Ryu wasn't as eloquent as Kong Ming Ming, but what Kong Ming Ming said was the truth, so he really couldn't refute it. What Kong Ming Ming said was also right. You didn't ask about it in detail, so why are you blaming him for not telling? Moreover, even if he didn't say it, why did you make this deal? Blinded by greed, Thor Ryu regretted it a little. Paoli clan was a very neutral clan. They didn't have any enmity with any sect. But now, they were involved in the internal dispute of the Five Elements sect. Okay, but my son Tortu was crippled in order to help you kill Lin Yi. You have to give me an explanation for his injury, right? I will give you another top-grade 4th-grade Great Restore pill. How about it? Thor Ryu made such a scene in order to fight for benefits for himself. Since he couldn't refute it, he directly stated his purpose. This is my bottom line. Old Patriarch, it's not that Kong Ming Ming, don't be unreasonable. A deal is a deal. This is a deal. I can't just say that if you get injured, I will give you a top-grade Great Restore pill, right? If you get injured again in a few days, do I have to give you 3 top-grade Great Restore pills? Kong Ming Ming naturally wouldn't agree to it. Although it was impossible to refine a 4th-grade pill, it wasn't absolutely impossible. If Ancestor Xian Jun succeeded in the future, he would owe a lot of debts. How could a 4th-grade pill be so easy to refine? Moreover, Kong Xiaoming also had his own considerations. If he agreed to Thor Ryu's request right away, then it would be a bit fake. Thor Ryu knew how precious a 4th-level medicinal pill was. If Kong Xiaoming agreed without even blinking, then he would really suspect that Kong Xiaoming was bragging to him. Of course, I definitely won't do it in the future. These two are my bottom line. Seeing Kong Xiaoming's attitude, Thor Ryu felt at ease. Just like what Kong Xiaoming had thought before, if he agreed immediately, Thor Ryu would definitely think that Five Elements sect couldn't refine a 4th-grade medicinal pill, so he would start making random promises. Old Patriarch, this is a fair transaction. It's done with the approval of both you and me. If anyone casually changes the conditions of our five-element sect in the future, what will we do in the future? Kong Ming Ming also cared about the face of five-element sect. Good. Since that's the case, then I will trade with someone else. That Lin Yi is still in our Soakingly clan's dungeon. Since his master is Ancestor Xianjun, maybe he is also proficient in alchemy. If I go and trade with him, I'm afraid he will be happy to trade with me, right? Thor Ryu didn't expect Kong Ming Ming to be so tough. He thought that after he said all this, Kong Ming Ming would reluctantly agree. Who knew that Kong Ming Ming would be so tough? With no other choice, Thor Ryu could only bite the bullet and continue to tempt. But in his opinion, this shouldn't have much of an effect. After all, Tortu had said it himself, and Lin Yi had confirmed it himself. His master, Boss Bai, had been crippled and was no longer the master of the five-element sect. Chapter 33-47. The previous top-grade 4th-grade Great Recover pill was acquiesced by old ancestor Xinshin, but two of them was a bit different. Don't go looking for him. Kong Xiaoming was really shocked by what he heard. If Thor Ryu went to trade with Lin Yi, then what would happen to him? Although he knew that Lin Yi might not be able to refine a top-grade Great Recover pill, Lin Yi was a very special person. Lin Yi and his underlings had been crippled more than once or twice, right? But every time, they were as good as before. There was no sign of them being crippled at all. This made Kong Ming Ming very surprised. Therefore, if Lin Yi really had a way to cure Lin Yi and Tortu's injuries, then Lin Yi would be the benefactor of the Bubbly clan. The Bubbly clan couldn't even protect him, let alone kill him? Obviously, it was impossible. Oh. Thor Ryu said it casually, but Kong Ming Ming's answer made his heart move. However, he was old and shrewd. On the surface, he didn't show anything wrong at all. He just looked at Kong Ming Ming with a smile and said, "So, Mr. Kong has promised me? It's not impossible to consider." Kong Ming Ming quickly said, "The main thing is that I'm afraid that you will go to Lin Yi and get killed by him. You know that you don't have any strength now. If something happens to you, then who will I look for to trade with?" Kong Ming Ming also found that he was a little anxious, but he could not be anxious. If he didn't stop Thor Ryu now, then it would be too late when Thor Ryu went to look for Lin Yi. So, Mr. Kong has agreed? Thor Ryu also addressed Kong Xiaoming as Mr. Kong, but it was just a perfunctory greeting. How could he not tell that something was wrong? Is he afraid that I will die? Was Kong Ming Ming that kind? If he was really that kind-hearted, he would have persuaded Tortu not to fight alone from the start. There shouldn't be a problem. I'll go talk to father-in-law. Kong Ming Ming couldn't agree before, but now, he was afraid that Thor Ryu would look for Lin Yi, so he had no choice but to agree. He believed that Patriarch Xinshin wouldn't say anything if he knew. All right, then I'll go back first. If there's any news from Mr. Kong, call the patrolling disciples to inform me at any time. Thor Ryu said, "Okay, I'll call father-in-law now." Kong Ming Ming said quickly. After Thor Ryu left, Little Yi frowned slightly. "Junior apprentice brother Kong, this old thing is insatiably greedy. If you rashly agree to him, master, if I don't agree, he'll go to Lin Yi. That'll be even worse." Kong Ming Ming waved his hand helplessly and said, "Let's call father-in-law." "Ai, you're right." Little Yi nodded. Kong Ming Ming picked up his mobile phone and dialed Patriarch Xuanshin's number directly. He hadn't reported the progress of the matter to Patriarch Xinshin yet when Thor Ryu came to find him. "Xiaoming, how is it? Is it settled?" Patriarch Xinshin asked after picking up the phone. "Father-in-law, things are going well, but there's some trouble." As he spoke, Kong Ming Ming told Patriarch Xinshin about Tortu's injury and Thor Ryu coming to find him. "Your starting point is good." After Patriarch Xinshin listened, he pondered for a moment and said, "Let Tortu get injured," thereby increasing the hatred between the Paoli clan and Lin Yi. This is not a problem. This move is very insidious, but Thor Ryu is not a good person. He actually used this to raise the bargaining chip. However, there's nothing wrong with you agreeing to him. If he really goes to Lin Yi, things will be troublesome. Patriarch Xuanqin's thoughts weren't as simple as Kong Ming Ming's. He thought that if Thor Ryu went to look for Lin Yi, he wouldn't cooperate with Kong Ming Ming. He thought that if he really went to look for Lin Yi, not only would he not cooperate, but what if he turned against him? Then I'll agree to Thor Ryu's request? Kong Ming Ming asked. You can agree to this. Patriarch Xuanqin sighed. At that time, although we don't have to repay these two debts for the time being, they will still be our 5-element sect's debts in the future. But in order to deal with Lin Yi, it's worth it. Okay, then I'll give him a reply. Kong Ming Ming nodded, hung up the phone, and opened the door. He called a Paoli clan disciple who was patrolling not far away and asked him to pass on his reply to Thor Ryu. Shortly after Thor Ryu returned to his room, he received a reply from Kong Ming Ming brought by his disciple. This didn't strengthen his confidence in cooperating with Kong Ming Ming, but instead made him even more suspicious. Kong Xiaoming could just take it and put it on a shelf. How could something easily obtained be good? But Kong Ming Ming gave him a reply in a hurry. He couldn't even wait for dinner time. What did this mean? It meant that Kong Ming Ming was afraid that he would look for Lin Yi to cooperate with him. Could it be that Lin Yi had something to surprise him? Thinking of this, Thor Ryu felt that he shouldn't be in a hurry to kill Lin Yi. Instead, he should do more investigation on this matter. Thinking of this, Thor Ryu waved his hand, and an old housekeeper immediately stood in front of Thor Ryu. Patriarch, what can I do for you? Who is in charge of the news from the Central Plains? Thor Ryu asked. It's the young master's people. The old housekeeper said quickly. Oh, call Thor Long to see me. Thor Ryu said. Yes, Patriarch. The old housekeeper nodded quickly and left the room. After a while, a strong man who looked very similar to Tortu walked into the room and said respectfully, Father, you asked me to come. Immediately inquire about the news from the Central Plains. Inquire about a person named Lin Yi. Gather all the information about him. It's best to gather all the information related to him. I need it urgently. Thor Ryu said. Thor Long was stunned, then asked strangely, Father, isn't this person the one who injured third brother? Why are you investigating him? Could it be that this person has a strong background? Can't we just kill him? I have my reasons for investigating him. Also, pass down the order to all the people in the Paoli clan. Without my order, no one is allowed to touch Lin Yi. Thor Ryu's face turned solemn, then said solemnly, All right, Thor Long, go and investigate. Hurry up and give me the results. Chapter 33:48. In that underground mechanism, Lin Yi and the others had been locked in there for 10 hours. Lin Yi knew that this wasn't the way to go. He didn't know what the Bubbly clan intended to do, but he was sure that if they wanted to look for him, then they would have probably come into contact with him a long time ago. Since no one had come after so long, then they probably intended to starve him to death here. Of course, Lin Yi's guess wasn't wrong. That was what Tortu and Toriyu had planned. But after Toriyu contacted Kong Ming Ming, he changed his original intention and started investigating Lin Yi. But was it really that easy for a foreign clan to investigate the Central Plains? It wasn't possible. So, not long after Lin Yi came in, he decisively brought Yu Dake and Yu Shaoka forward, trying to find out. At first, Yu Shaoka was a little doubtful. After all, the words at the entrance were too scary. It was 4 deaths and 1 life. It wasn't as scary as 9 deaths and 1 life. But one wrong step and they'd be doomed. But Lin Yi walked forward with certainty, and his brother Yu Dake followed firmly. Yu Shaoka couldn't do anything about it. She couldn't stay by herself, could she? So, she could only bite the bullet and follow. But, after walking for a while, Yu Shaoka was a little puzzled. The path they were walking on wasn't a straight path, but there were 5 forks in the road, and the words were also 4 deaths and 1 life. But Lin Yi didn't seem to have the time to judge at all. He just walked around randomly and entered one of them. This made Yu Shaoka very confused. You just walked around and you knew which way to go? That was obviously impossible. Did you think you were a prophet, a master of those ancient traps? You'd need half a day to judge, right? Plus, these 5 paths were exactly the same. There was no pattern to follow. So how did Lin Yi go? But, to say that Lin Yi was lucky wasn't the case. because Lin Yi didn't always go the same way. Sometimes he went the right, sometimes he went the left, and sometimes he went the middle. Wait, when they came to the next intersection, Xiaoka couldn't take it anymore. Lin Yi, are you walking around randomly? Can you really tell which path is the correct one? Lin Yi stopped. He knew what he was doing. It was a little suspicious. After all, he relied on the jade pendant's sense of danger to make a judgment. He walked in front of the 5 passages and knew which was dangerous and which was not. But these things, he couldn't tell Yu Dake and Yu Xiaoka either. If it was any other time, Lin Yi might have pretended to look around. But today, Lin Yi really didn't have the mood to do so, because the food they brought along on the way had been eaten. They had also calculated the approximate distance before heading to the Bubble Leaf clan. They came from afar to do business, and the Bubble Leaf clan had to take care of their food and lodging, right? But now there was an accident, and they didn't have any rations. Lin Yi didn't mind, but Yu Dake and Yu Xiaoka had to eat. They could cultivate, but in this prison, the qi they absorbed was far from enough to make up for the qi they used up. Not bad. Lin Yi nodded. This wasn't his only special ability. Anyway, the ones that helped people increase their strength and heal injuries were even stronger. In comparison, his judgment of danger wasn't that obvious. Are you walking around randomly? Is there really danger here? Are you trying to scare us? Xiaoka didn't like Lin Yi. She thought that Lin Yi was showing off in front of her, thinking that Lin Yi knew that she came from a thief sect and was purposely suppressing her in what he was good at so that she would admire him. One had to say, Xiaoka's thoughts were a little too much. Walking around randomly? Lin Yi frowned. What are you trying to say? I can walk around like this. Don't think that I'll admire you just because you're acting. Xiaoka humphed. That's impossible. I know what you've sensed, but you're just faking it. The person I like is much better than you, able to make decisions even in a dangerous tomb. You can't compare to him. Lin Yi didn't know what to say, but Xiaoka snorted. Lin Yi was speechless. What was she thinking at this time? Xiaoka, what are you trying to say? It's nothing. You guys come with me. I can go too, Xiaoka said as she stepped into one of the tunnels. Xiaoka, don't be stubborn. Yu Dake was startled, but his words were too slow. As soon as Xiaoka stepped into the tunnel, arrows flew towards her. Lin Yi was infuriated. What time was this? You like the male thief, but you can't use your life to belittle Lin Yi, can you? Thanks to Lin Yi's strength, he was a sky-class mid-phase, and he was very nimble. He lifted his hand and pulled Xiaoka out of the passageway. However, in order to not let Xiaoka get hit by the arrows, he didn't dare to dodge, and an arrow still pierced a hole in his arm. Although there were no headlights here, there was a luminous pearl at the entrance of each mechanism, and there was still some weak light. Lin Yi looked at his wound. Luckily, the color of the blood was normal, and the arrow shouldn't be poisonous. Xiaoka, are you done being crazy? Lin Yi used to give in to her because he liked her, and he was touched by her dedication to the orphanage. But now, he didn't think that Xiaoka would let her emotions affect her decisions. Xiaoka was scared out of her wits. She thought that all the tunnels were safe, and it didn't matter which one Lin Yi went to. She was just pretending. But now, she finally understood how stupid she was. Xiaoka's heart was palpitated. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, she really would have been killed by the arrow. Looking at the arrows scattered on the ground near the entrance, Yu Xiaoka felt a lingering fear. Chapter 33:49. Xiaoka didn't think that Lin Yi would be this angry. She was in the wrong, and she was scared, so she didn't dare to refute when Lin Yi scolded her. All right, Yu Dake, hold on to Xiaoka. Don't let her wander around. We need to find a way to leave this place first. Lin Yi was panicking. Scolding Xiaoka was one thing, but now he was worried about the Bubbly clan's attitude. Right now, the Bubbly clan was obviously very unfriendly towards them, so Lin Yi didn't know what they would do next after locking them up here. It was better to leave this place first. All right, Mr. Lin, don't be angry. I'll look after her, and don't let her wander around. Yu Dake was sweating profusely. If it wasn't for Lin Yi's strength, he would have lost his sister. Lin Yi nodded and walked towards the path Xiaoka had just taken. This time, there wasn't any danger, and this surprised Xiaoka. It seemed like Lin Yi wasn't wandering around randomly, and the 4 out of 4 deaths and 1 life was real. It wasn't a lie. Xiaoke was silent this time. She was silently pulled by Dake as they walked forward. But to be honest, Xiaoke's heart was still quite sad. Identifying the traps in the tomb was Xiaoke's forte, and she rarely admired anyone in this area. The only person she admired was the male thief in the tomb. But Lin Yi had this ability now. To be honest, if she didn't look at Lin Yi with colored glasses, there really wasn't much difference between Lin Yi and the male thief, right? Both of them were so strong, and they supported the orphanage. If the first person she met was Lin Yi, then now, Xiaoke was shocked at the thought. She didn't think that Lin Yi would be so outstanding in her heart. Perhaps it was because of Lin Yi's excellence that Xiaoke's heart became more and more chaotic, and that was why she acted so rashly earlier. Because she didn't want Lin Yi to replace the male thief in her heart. He was irreplaceable. In a trance, Xiaoke seemed to have returned to the time in the tomb, remembering how the male thief saved her from the brink of death. Huh? No. Xiaoke shuddered and stopped her footsteps abruptly. Her eyes flashed with disbelief. Remembering what Lin Yi said when they fell into the trap, Xiaoke's heart almost jumped out of her mouth. Xiaoke didn't want to leave, and Dake stopped as well. He was about to ask her what was wrong when she blurted out, "Male thief, wait a second." Lin Yi was thinking about the Bubbly clan, and it could be said that this trip was a complete failure. Even if he could escape this trap, it was still a failure. After all, his goal was to trade with the Bubbly clan, and now it seemed like there wasn't much hope. At this moment, Xiaoke asked him to wait, and Lin Yi frowned subconsciously, stopping his steps. "What's wrong now?" "You. Why you? You're really the male thief?" Xiaoke's eyes widened in disbelief. She didn't think that Lin Yi would actually agree to her request. Lin Yi paused, remembering that his words seemed to be admitting his identity, but Lin Yi was really pissed. Plus, he was the same person as the male thief, and they were both facing Xiaoke in this dark environment. Lin Yi subconsciously thought that he was the same person, but Xiaoke saw through it. "You're thinking too much?" Xiaoke frowned. Could it be that she was thinking too much? She saw the male thief's real face at the Cultivator Trade Association. He looked different from Lin Yi, but how did Lin Yi know about the tomb? Plus, Xiaoke didn't like Lin Yi at first, but now that she listened carefully, his voice was really similar to the male thief. Xiaoke didn't think much about it before, but today, she really felt that Lin Yi and the male thief were the same person. But Xiaoke thought that Lin Yi was very suspicious, and so she asked, "You're not the male thief, so why are you helping me?" "I like you, so I'm helping you." Lin Yi wanted to find a chance to tell Xiaoke the truth, but he didn't want it to be in this environment. He didn't even know if he could leave this place, and Lin Yi didn't want to waste time. "Like me?" Xiaoke thought about it and turned to her brother. "Dake, bro, when you went to Lin Yi's house, did you see any pets?" "Pets?" Dake was confused by Xiaoke and Lin Yi as well. How did Lin Yi become the male thief? He paused when Xiaoke asked, "I don't know about pets, but how many spirit beasts does he have?" "Spirit beasts? What kind of spirit beast?" Xiaoke's eyes brightened and quickly asked. "It's just a purple lightning beast, a dog, and a pig." The purple lightning beast was something he got from the Hidden House Summit, and Dake went to check it out on his way here. He saw General Weiwu and the pig as well. Lin Yi heard Dake's answer and knew it was bad. When Xiaoke left the tomb, she swore that she would find him based on these two characteristics, and now, he couldn't deny it even if he wanted to. Right? That piglet, does it only know how to squeak? Xiaoke's body shook as she asked subconsciously. "Yeah." Dake nodded. "I think it's called Skybolt Pig or something." "Fuck." Xiaoke ran over and pulled Lin Yi back, turning him around. You're playing with me, aren't you?" Xiaoke had been looking for a master with a dog and a pig, but it wasn't easy to find them. She didn't like Lin Yi, and she almost never went to Lin Yi's house. Naturally, she didn't know that Lin Yi had General Weiwu and Skybolt Pig. Now that her brother Dake had confirmed Lin Yi's identity, Xiaoke was both happy and embarrassed at the same time. She felt like she was played by Lin Yi. Look, you like the male thief, but you hate my original identity. I'm afraid that you won't like me anymore if I tell you." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He couldn't deny it even if he wanted to. The dog proof and the pig proof were all there. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.